Sorry for some technical delays. We'll just start shortly. Okay, welcome everyone. I would like to invite the next panel. Kalyani, are you there?
Quiero invitar a la próxima
Yes,
panelista.
I'm here.
Kalyani, ¿te
Good
encuentras por aquí?
morning
Sí, me
or good
encuentro por
evening to
aquí.
you.
Buenos días o buenas tardes.
Shall we start now?
¿Podemos comenzar ahora?
Yes, we
Sí,
can start.
podemos comenzar.
Okay.
Muy bien.
Good morning
Buenos
or
días.
good evening or good
Buenas
afternoon
tardes o
to
buenas
everyone
noches a todos
from all
ustedes
around the
de
world.
todas partes del mundo.
This is Kalyani
Este es
and I
Kalyani.
am in Malaysia.
Yo me encuentro en
We have a
Malasia.
great panel for you
Tenemos un gran
today.
panel para ustedes
So
el día de
welcome.
hoy y entonces sean bienvenidos.
The title of our
El
panel
título de
is
nuestro panel
Towards Food Security
hacia la
and
seguridad
Community
alimentaria
Empowerment.
y el empoderamiento de la comunidad.
So let me just read my
Entonces,
intro.
simplemente voy a leer
All of
mi
us are
introducción.
now,
Todos
especially aware
nosotros
of the
ahorita
problem of food
estamos
security in
conscientes
this
del
era
problema de la
of
seguridad
the COVID
alimenticia
pandemic.
en esta situación
The industrial
endémica por el
farming
COVID.
method of the last
Los
few
sistemas
decades,
industriales de agricultura en las
characterized by the
últimas décadas son
rampant use of
caracterizados
fertilizers
por
and
los
pesticides, has led to
pesticidas y
widespread
fertilizantes, ha
soil,
llevado
water,
a
and air
que
pollution,
exista una
ecological
contaminación
damage,
de la tierra,
low
el
nutrient
agua,
produce, and
que productos
economic
no sean
hardship to
nutritivos
farmers across
y
the world.
también
So
una
many of the
dificultad económica
crises
para los
facing the world
granjeros.
today
Muchas
have their
personas el día de
roots
hoy
in
tienen
how we treat our
las
land,
raíces en
how
cómo
we grow our
tratamos a
food,
nuestra
and
tierra,
what we
cómo
eat.
crecemos nuestra comida y
The
qué es lo que
solution
comemos.
lies in the return to
Ya en
regenerative
la solución en
agriculture,
regenerar a la agricultura,
decentralized food production,
descentralizar
and
la
local
producción de la
community
comida y
empowerment.
empoderar a las comunidades a
Through
nivel local
consumer and
a
producer
través de
cooperatives, people take
consumidores y
control
cooperativas
of the basic everyday
las personas
decisions
pueden
of life,
empezar a
like how we
consumir
spend, what
productos
we buy, and
y
how we
tener el
produce the
poder de
food we
qué es lo
eat.
que pueden comprar, qué es lo
For
que
our
pueden
panel
comer.
today, we are
Entonces, para el panel del día
privileged
de
to
hoy,
have
somos
three
privilegiados
parties,
para tener a 3
all
personas,
extremely
todas
busy people,
extremadamente
take
personas muy
time to
ocupadas
come
que
and
dieron
share
el
with us
tiempo
their
para
work
venir y
involving
compartir con
different
nosotros
aspects of the food
en
system.
distintas
Our first
cuestiones del
panelist
sistema
is
de
David
la
Hardwick
comida.
from
El primero es David
Canberra, or
Hardwick de
just outside
Canberra,
Canberra, Australia.
o solamente
David
fuera
is
de
an
Canberra, Australia. David
agroecologist
es
and
un
has over
agroecologista
20 years
y tiene
experience
más de
in
20
rural
años en la
landscapes,
experiencia
farming,
en
and food
landscaping
systems. The
y
title of his
paisajismo, y el
presentation
título de su
is
presentación es
Rebooting the World's Farming and Food
Reseteando
Systems.
en los sistemas
Our
alimenticios.
second panelist
Segundo
is
panelista
Associate
es
Professor Chiu
asociado
Yi Ru
profesor
from Hualien, Taiwan.
de Taiwán
He will focus on
y él se
community
enfocará en
empowerment
el empoderamiento de la
that
comunidad
comes when consumers
que
form
viene cuando los
cooperatives to assert
consumidores forman
their consumer
cooperativas,
power, thereby
también
improving the
crean
quality of life
poder
not only
poder
for they
consumidor.
themselves, the consumers,
No
but
solamente
also
para
for the
los
farmers
consumidores,
and
sino también
others
para
who
los
produce their food.
agricultores y para aquellas
And our
personas que
third
producen su
panelist
alimento. Y el
is a
tercer
team
panelista es
from
un
Dada
grupo de
Dharma Vedananda
Dada
and
Dharma
Yogesh
Vedananda y Yogesh
Pelseter
Pelseter
from the
de
Philippines.
las
They will
Filipinas.
share with us their experience in
Van a
helping
compartir
the
con nosotros
poorest residents of Orakata
de
struggle to make a better life for themselves
su experiencia
through
en
local
Oracuta
production for local
a través de la
consumption,
producción
the cooperative way.
de alimentos para
So
consumo
we are coming to our
personal
problem from
y
different
local.
aspects
Entonces
of the
veremos distintos
situation.
aspectos de la
Our
situación.
panelists will have
Que nuestros
plenty to share and
panelistas tendrán
discuss
mucho que compartir y
after the
discutir
three
después
panelists have presented
de que nuestros
in a
presentadores
cross-pollination
hayan
session when they will
presentado
interact
sus
and
sesiones
discuss and
y
share
cuando
with
puedan
each
terminar de
other.
presentar.
And at this time, we will
Y en esta
also take
ocasión también
questions
vamos a tomar
from the
preguntas de los
participants.
participantes.
And so let us begin with our first
Entonces comencemos
panelist.
con nuestro
Let me
primer
just read
panelista.
you a brief
Simplemente déjenme
bio on
leerles
him.
una pequeña biografía de él.
David Hardwick is an
David Hardwick es
agroecologist
un
and has
agroecologista
over 20
y
years
tiene más de
experience
20
in
años en
rural
experiencia
landscapes,
en
farming and food
paisajismo rural
systems.
y
He is
sistemas
senior
de
partner at
agricultura. Es
Soil,
un
Land,
socio
Food, which is an
en
independent
una
agricultural
empresa
consultancy that
que
is
es una
passionate
consultora
about supporting
apasionada
change
sobre
in Australian
aportar
rural
cambio
landscapes,
en
farming and
paisajes
food systems
agrarios
towards a
en
more
Australia
regenerative
para
and
regenerar
ecological future.
un futuro más
David has worked in
agroecológico.
community
Ha
development
trabajado
and then
en desarrollo de
horticulture
comunidades y
before completing
multiculturales
a dairy
antes
traineeship
de competir
on an
contra
organic dairy in New South Wales. Since then,
distintas
he has had a
compañías. Desde
wide-ranging
entonces ha
career,
tenido
both
una
working in both
carrera
management
exitosa
and technical
trabajando en
roles.
administración,
These include land care extension,
también
agronomy,
en cuestión de
soils,
agronomía, tierra,
agribusiness,
agronegocios,
biofertilizer R&D
biofertilizantes
and
y
manufacturing,
también manufactura
organics,
orgánica,
training and consulting positions.
drenaje
For
y
many years, he
posiciones
also
de
helped run
consultoría.
a
También por
regional
muchos años ha
farmers
estado
market
corriendo
business with his
un
wife. He has also
mercado
worked on rural cooperatives
agroorgánico
and
con su
social
esposa
enterprise
y
projects.
también
David also teaches soils, regenerative
negocios,
agriculture, farm planning, and
también
agroecology
planeación
at
de agricultura
TAFE, T-A-F-E, New South Wales
TAF,
on a casual basis.
en
David's passion
ocasiones
is
diversas.
agroecology and
También es
empowering farmers with knowledge and
empodera
skills
a
that make a difference.
ecologistas y hace una
And I'm sure David
diferencia.
himself makes a difference.
Creo
His
que él sí mismo hace una diferencia.
qualifications are very
Sus
extensive and
cualificaciones
impressive.
son muy
Bachelor of
extendidas.
Ecological
Tiene una
Agriculture from
licenciatura
the
de
University of
ecología
New
de
South
la
University of Sydney.
de Sydney,
Diploma in
Australia,
Agribusiness
diploma en
from
agronegocios
TAFE New South
de
Wales.
TAFE de
CIV in
Nueva Gales,
Training and Assessment.
también
Grazing Land Management from Queensland DPI.
manejo de
And
tierras
Natural Sequence Farming
manejo
from
de
Darwin Park Training.
Powering Track Training.
Over to you, David.
Entonces te cedo el micrófono, David.
David will upload his
David
PowerPoint
va a
presentation.
subir su presentación.
Thanks very much, Kalyani.
Muchas gracias, Kalyani.
Yeah, thanks everyone for
Muchas
making the
gracias a todo el
time
mundo
to
por
attend our session
poder
with
atender
myself
esta
and the other
sesión
presenters.
en la cual voy a platicar con los presentadores.
Hope we can explore some of these
Esperemos
really
que podamos
important
explorar un
topics
poquito
together
más sobre
and
la
stimulate some
importancia de algunos
thinking.
de estos temas y
Can
estimular el
everyone hear
pensamiento.
me okay? Kalyani, maybe if you give me the
Espero
thumbs up, if the share screen is fine.
Pueden ver la presentación.
Well,
voice is fine.
Si me
yes,
pueden...
we can hear you very clearly.
Yep.
Only,
And
Okay, muy bien, muchas
David,
gracias.
only request is if you could speak a little slowly and make pauses
La única
because there is
afectación
interpretation happening.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks for reminding me.
Traductores. Muchas
Okay.
gracias.
Well, welcome. I'll best jump straight in.
Gracias por haber
So
venido.
I guess the topic
Creo que el
theme that we
tema
had
del día
was
de hoy es
towards food security and community
camino a la
empowerment
seguridad
for the
alimenticia y
21st century.
empoderamiento de las
And
personas.
actually, I think we need to flip it
Actualmente estoy
around
pensando
because
que
to
necesitamos
achieve food
cambiarlo, porque para
security
poder
and not
cambiar
just
hacia
food
esta
security, but
situación,
planetary security,
ahora no tiene
we
que
actually
ser
need to empower
una seguridad
communities.
planetaria.
So it actually all starts with
Ahora
people
todo
in
esto
local communities if we
empieza
are going
con
to tackle this
las
massive
comunidades.
global challenge of
Hay
feeding people
muchos
and looking after
obstáculos
the planet
para
and
poder
everything else
alimentar a
that
toda la
lives on it
gente.
with us. So I've called
Entonces,
my little session Rebooting the
hecho
World's
llamado a
Farming
mi
and Food Systems.
sesión
So the things we
reseteando el
eat,
mundo.
which we call food,
Entonces,
actually
nosotros
are
lo que
the end
llamamos
product of farming
producto
and the
sobre la
distribution,
cuestión de la
processing, and
agricultura,
consumption and selling of
la
food, which we call a
consumpción
food system. So
de todo este
I'll use
sistema
that term
alimentario,
farming and food systems
utilice
to kind of
este
describe the complex
concepto para describir el
systems
contexto de
through which
sistemas
our food is
en el
created
cual
in the modern
cómo
world.
es la comida creada en este
So I guess
mundo.
what we're trying to do
Creo
is
que lo que
move
estamos tratando de
towards an
hacer es
agriculture
movernos hacia
that's good
un
for the planet, because
sistema
it's the only one
de
we've got
agricultura que
apparently
es
at the
sostenible
moment.
para el país,
It's
en el
good
mundo,
for
perdón,
communities and
y que
keeps them
pueda
vibrant and
soportar a
healthy and
comunidades
equitable.
y
And it's good for
al
you
medio
as a
ambiente,
consumer of food,
y que también sea
because
bueno
a
para
lot
ti,
of the
pero como
time in many
consumidor,
parts of the
porque en
world,
muchas ocasiones en muchas
the
partes del
stuff that
mundo,
people eat, which they call food,
la
can
cosa
actually make you
que
sick.
en realidad
So
estás
we need to
comiendo,
look at all
en
three
realidad
levels.
puede hacer estar enfermando. Entonces tenemos que cuidar
So
esto.
I guess in
Entonces
my
creo
talk, I'm going
que
to look at the big picture a little
voy
bit.
a observar
So like give a
si
bit of
pueden
an
observar
overview, as well as introducing you to some very
la
specific
imagen,
projects that we're working
pueden
on.
observar algunos de
The
los proyectos
guys,
que
the other
estamos
presenters
trabajando.
in the theme will give you very specific
Hay
projects,
otras
but I
personas
thought
que les
I
van a
might
hablar
give
de
you a bit of a broad
proyectos muy
picture
particulares
and a bit of a worldview from
y
Prout
un
and
poco de
neo-humanism
una
as well.
visión prautística
So I
y
guess the first
neohumanística
thing
también.
that we
Entonces
all
creo
really need
que
to
una de
realize
las cosas
is
que
that we've
deberíamos
entered the
estar
Anthropocene, which is of course the age of
conscientes es que
humans.
nos encontramos
And
en
here's a
una
classic shot
época.
from NASA of just how much
Esta es
of the
una
planet
fotografía de
we
NASA
are now kind of really influencing.
de
And the
las
challenge
zonas
we
que
have
estamos
is how to
influenciando y el
feed
reto que tenemos
13
es
billion people or
poder
so by the end of this century
alimentar 30 billones de personas
and
para el
look after
final de
this planet.
este siglo y para poder
Because
cuidar a
if you
este
don't,
planeta, porque si no lo
then there's
hacemos,
no point
entonces
going anymore.
no tiene punto
And
seguir.
so I guess the great
Entonces
challenge
creo que el
for
gran
agriculture in the 20th
reto para la
century, the
agricultura en
century that we've just
el
left, even though a
siglo
lot of
XXI, el que acabamos de
agriculture
terminar, a pesar
practice
de que
and food systems
muchos
are still 20th
sistemas
century
de
based in their
agricultura
thinking.
están basados en
But
este siglo
actually the
pasado,
challenge of the 20th century was how do we
el
feed this 9
obstáculo
billion
era cómo
people or so.
podemos
And so that was the
alimentar
great
este
challenge of the
9
modern
billones de
world,
personas.
if you like, throughout the
Anteriormente había
20th
dicho 30,
century, and
una disculpa.
particularly from the Second World War onwards.
Esto fue a partir de la Segunda Guerra Mundial.
So I guess at
Entonces
the end of
creo
that
que
century,
al
what was the
final de este
scorecard?
siglo,
And if you look at the UN
si
food security
observan
programs and things, I guess the
los
general
programas de seguridad
consensus
de la India,
is
el
that we haven't
consenso es que
achieved what's called
no
zero hunger.
hemos
There are still many people that
logrado
are either
el 0%
food
de las personas
insecure
que tengan
slightly or
hambre,
greatly or are
ni
severely
siquiera
malnourished.
cerca,
But
ni
it's
siquiera
generally
malnutridos,
considered
pero
that we
está
can grow enough
considerado
food for all. We have the
de que
ability to,
podemos y
and
tenemos la
in
habilidad
fact the natural
para
resources to, if we put
generar
our minds together. But the current estimates are that there's about 800 million people that are fairly to severely food insecure still. So I guess that 20th century challenge wasn't quite met, although we probably have the science and the natural resources and the know-how to actually do it. So the modern situation of food insecurity for 8% of the world's population or more is driven more by social, political, and economic issues than land area and our scientific and physical abilities.
Más allá de lo científico. Y este es un campo de refugiados en África donde hay donde la alimentación
and I guess the farming systems that were developed to achieve that goal for the 20th century, there's actually three types. There's the what we call the industrial food systems that Kalyani mentioned in the introduction, which are very environmentally adverse, as we'll see, but they did grow a lot of food at a lot of cost. And then we've also got what we call modified pre-industrial systems, which are traditional farming systems that have been modified by the modern world in the fact that they would use some machinery or some chemicals, or they're in the cash economy, so they simplify their their crop choices. So these are kind of what I call disrupted subsistence or traditional systems. And a lot of food grown around the world is produced in these type of farming systems. And the third type of farming system that, of course, fed some of that 9 billion people in the 20th century were true subsistence or traditional farming systems that are cashless, completely local, district scale, and very ecological in their characteristics.
Bienestar a las comunidades locales.
But as I mentioned, the food and farming systems of the 20th century did lead massive problems. And those problems were caused by two things. They were caused by the industrial model that developed industrial agriculture, but they were also developed by the increase in population. So even subsistence and semi-traditional farming systems can be quite environmentally damaging when there's too many of them for a landscape. So here's an example of desertification in Africa. So, you know, this issue, environmental degradation and the great costs we have, water pollution, social disruption, they are driven a lot by industrial and capitalist systems, but also just by population pressure. That's another really important aspect of it. And so these massive impacts of the 20th century farming and food systems, which we developed to try and solve the problem of food security for the world, had massive impacts, as we all know. And those impacts are at the global, regional, and local level. And those impacts are both environmental, social, and personal. They affect all of us individually as well. Here's a picture of the Amazon, of course, where the rainforest landscapes on a continental scale are completely disrupted, and the landscape function and regional and global climate systems are now being influenced adversely, as well as the massive loss of biodiversity and cultural heritage and human heritage. So massive issues. And I guess if you're a vegetarian and you're eating soybeans grown in these landscapes, then you know it's a really big social and ethical issue of how I choose my food, even if I'm a vegetarian, for example. So another example of the global issue is, of course, the warming of the planet, both the sea and the land and the atmosphere. And that's pretty clear now. And that's one of the ramifications that industrial food systems have, is that they impact on that. They are a contributor to that. Where I live and work in Australia, we do a lot of work in northern Australia on what's called the Great Barrier Reef communities. So most of you will have heard of the Great Barrier Reef. So here's a regional issue, some of the projects we directly work with, and you can see the river system here flowing into the Coral Sea in northern Australia, and you can see the Great Barrier Reef at the top of the screen in the ocean. And you can see the sediment coming off those landscapes into the sea, and increasing the sediment in the water, which has a big effect on the Great Barrier Reef. And knowing that particular issue, having worked in on those projects, it's a very specific issue to very specific landscapes and specific farming communities. For no one's fault in general, but it's a whole of system issue that's impacting on, obviously, a World Heritage Great Barrier Reef, which in fact is a really important economic part of Australia in the tourism. And of course, there's heaps and heaps of social issues. I won't go into it too far because I know some of the other guys are really going to cover that in depth. But here's not slave labor, but close to slave labor, picking vegetables. And this is common all around the world now, in that the capitalist system tries, of course, to lower costs as low as possible. And so if it can lower the cost of labor to below a living wage, wherever it can, it often does. And so we get a whole lot of profound social issues. But I'll let the other guys maybe talk about that a bit more. And then the other impact of the 20th century farming and food systems that we're all sort of a part of is the personal impact of eating a poor diet, or not eating enough food, or eating too much sugar and fat. So we have this conundrum in the world now of heaps of people that are eat too much, and quite a lot of people who don't eat enough. And probably the common ground between the two is that our diets are also simplified. So whereas in the past we ate most of the time a lot more diverse things, which is very good for you physically and mentally, we now tend to simplify the diet, which has a whole lot of problems as well. So here's a little chart statistic on diabetes, which is a problem of the first world. So I guess bringing it back to the human scale, one of the things, the challenges we have and the issues of all of this 20th century problem that's arisen and still with us now as we enter the 21st century, is that at a human
es
scale,
que
we live in
en
the landscape.
escala
Whether you live in
humana
a big
vivimos
city
en un
or you live
paisaje,
out in the
ya sea que
country
vivas
like
en
me,
la ciudad
we
o
live in
en las
landscape. So
afueras
that's the
como
human
yo.
scale,
Vivimos,
the
esta es
district or the local area in which we live. So it
el
might be a
distrito en el que
cityscape
vivimos,
or a rural landscape. And
o un
the
paisaje
issue
rural
around
o
the world
citadino.
is that rural
Y la
landscapes,
situación
the
es que los
environmental natural capital
paisajes
through which we need to
rurales,
grow food and fiber and
donde
medicine and
necesitamos
timber,
crecer
is declining
comida,
rapidly. So here's a
madera,
picture not far from
está
home
decreciendo
with an
rápidamente. Esta es una
agricultural landscape
fotografía no
in
muy lejos
severe
de la casa
decline,
que está
erosion,
decayendo por
evaporation. This
erosión,
landscape is no longer
evaporación, y este
functional
paisaje
and
no
not
es
growing as much food as it
funcional y no
needs to,
está
but it's
creciendo
also
la
lost a lot of
cantidad de
biodiversity.
alimentación y
Here's
tampoco
another
está
example
dando
in
suficiente
Malaysia, where I did some
biodiversidad.
work
Este es
some
otro
years
ejemplo en
ago,
Malasia, en el cual
where
hice
a
trabajo,
whole river valley
donde todo
was
un
taken
valle de
over by
río
a
fue tomado
multinational
por una,
corporation to
una
turn
multinacional
into
para
rice
volver
fields,
esto en
and the whole
un campo
villages
de
along that
arroz,
system were
y
all sort of pretty much
muchos de
removed.
los trabajadores
So the
que
other
vivían ahí fueron removidos.
aspect of this
Otro
whole
aspecto
impact
de
of modern
este
agriculture and
impacto
food
de
systems
la,
is the decline in health and resilience of rural
la
communities,
resiliencia
who
de
are the
las
communities of
comunidades
people that live
rurales, que
in
eran
rural
comunidades que
landscapes and grow the
vivían
food that we're used to
en
eating.
estos
So
lugares.
the really important thing
Y
that I'd like to get across
lo
is
que
that local
quiero llegar es
communities
que
are
las
the
comunidades
essential
locales
scale
tenían
of
la
management when
escala
it comes to
esencial de
producing
manejo
food for the
cuando
world.
se
It won't be
lleva a
done
producir
at a whole
la
of nation
comida.
scale. The national and global levels are
No,
really important for policy and economic policy, etc. But it's actually at the
pero
scale
es
of regional
actualmente
and
la
local
escala de
communities where food
llegar
decisions
en
and
cuanto a
sustainability
las
and just getting
comunidades
the
tiene que
balance
llegar a
right
una
really needs to be done,
sustentabilidad
and how
de
we look
llevar
after our planet.
esto
So it actually
de una
starts
manera
at this local
sustentable.
scale. So the great
Entonces
challenge
el
of
gran reto
agriculture
de
for
la
the 21st
agricultura para el
century then
siglo XXI
is how do we feed 13
es
billion people
cómo
and
alimentamos
still look
a
after this
13 billones
planet?
de personas
And
y
here's a
seguimos
picture of
cuidando este
an amazing
planeta.
tropical fruit
Esta
orchard in
es
North Queensland where I'll do some
un
work.
orquidiario
And this
frutal,
particular farming
y
family has been able
esta
to balance. If you look at
familia ha podido balancear.
the
Si
background
observan
of the photo, you'll see the
el background de la
rainforest. So
fotografía,
that's World
ven
Heritage
que el
Australian
fondo se
wet tropics
encuentra
rainforest, and it's full of cassowaries and other really
donde se
rare endangered
encuentran muchas
wildlife. And this
especies
farm has been able to create habitat for
estado de
that
extinción.
wildlife
Y
throughout the
entonces
farm.
han
Even though those
logrado,
birds like eating tropical fruits, he's
a
been
pesar
able
de
to
que están
find a balance
creciendo
between
frutas
maintaining,
tropicales y
habitat for
mantener
those
un hábitat
cassowaries
para
as well as
esas plantas
producing tropical
frutales,
fruits. And he does grow
produciendo,
jackfruit. So if any of
también
you have
crece
eaten
yaca.
jackfruit, if you're a
Si
vegetarian
alguno de
or a
ustedes si
vegan,
son
you'll know
vegetarianos
that
o
that's getting
veganos
very
saben que eso
popular.
se está volviendo
Well,
muy
it's
popular.
how do we grow
Bueno,
these
es como
tropical
crecemos
crops and still look
estas
after the
piezas
biodiversity. So here's
tropicales
an
y
example
cuidamos
of a
también de la
farmer that's trying to
biodiversidad.
strike that balance.
Un granjero
And
que
so I
ha
guess what's
encontrado el
emerging
balance.
around the
Entonces creo que
world,
lo que
and
está
of course I
creciendo en
work
el
mostly in
mundo,
Australia,
claro,
is
trabajo
that
generalmente
it's
más en
occurring
Australia, pero
everywhere,
está
is
ocurriendo
farming
en
and
todo el
food
mundo, es
systems that
creciendo en
integrate
sistemas
ecological
de
thinking
comida que
into
incluyen el
agricultural
pensamiento
science. So it's
agricultural
really about a new
de
way of
acuerdo
thinking of
con
doing
la
things.
ciencia. Es una
And here's a
manera de
group of
hacer las
cane farmers,
cosas
sugarcane farmers in North Queensland, Australia,
de
that I
mejor
work with,
manera.
who are really trying to change their practices because they live next to the barrier reef.
Yo viví
Sugar
al
is
lado
no longer the
de
industry it used to be.
la
Everyone in Australia
barrera
thinks
del
sugar's a
arrecife
terrible poison. You're not supposed to
y
eat it anymore. So they're
en
going
realidad
through massive
tenía
change. And so they're trying to
mucho
adapt and
pesticida,
change the
entonces en
way they
realidad
do
era más
things at a local
nocivo
community
esto.
scale.
Entonces
And
a
so the
nivel
term, as
local lo estamos
Kalyani
llevando de
mentioned,
otra
for
manera,
this
así como
really
Kalyani estaba
significant
mencionando.
movement is, of course,
Este movimiento
regenerative
significativo está
agriculture,
regenerando la
which is where we
agricultura,
work with
que es
ecological
por eso que
processes.
trabajamos con
Sometimes you'll
procesos
see the word biological
ecológicos.
agriculture
Van
or
a ver
ecological agriculture.
ecología,
Organic agriculture is a part of it,
orgánica,
but it's a
biología,
new way
y
of
son
farming.
nuevas maneras
And here's a
de
grazier in
estar
Central Australia, in the Northern
sembrando.
Territory,
En el
who
norte de
uses
Australia se está
ecological
llevando
grazing
este tipo
approaches to
de
manage not just their animals, their cattle,
crecimiento,
but also the
no
landscape for long-term
solamente
resilience and
con
health.
las plantas, sino también
And
tomando
so
en cuenta
these
los
new farming
animales.
systems
Estos
are
nuevos
based on
sistemas
soil
de
health. Here's
agricultura
a
están
very
basados en
innovative
la
cropping
salud,
farmer in Australia that does what we call multi-species cover crops.
en cuestión de la salud de la
And
tierra.
it includes things like
Y también incluye
biofertilizers,
como
which P.R. Sakar
biofertilizantes que
mentioned
Per
quite
Sarkar
some decades ago now.
mencionó
And
en décadas
biofertilizers are a
atrás,
way to use
que son
fertilizers but
maneras
still
para
keep
utilizar
the biological
fertilizadores,
function of
pero
soils.
todavía
And P.R.
permanecen
Sakar
con
made the
su
quote back in the 80s, I believe.
situación
it's
orgánica
necessary to
en el
adopt a
suelo.
system whereby chemical fertilizers which do not decrease soil fertility are used, or high yields are produced without using chemical fertilizers at all. And I've seen in my career, during my career, this come true. So having worked in biological R&D, and this is a colleague of mine on a trial site when we used to do biofertilizer research and development. And so there's a whole lot of regenerative farming systems. Here's a line farm in northern Australia that doesn't use chemical fertilizers and very successfully grows very large yields of limes, which of course is an essential food staple in many countries of the world these days. But it also includes grazing landscapes. So a lot of the world grazing animals underpin food production traditionally for either meat, but also for milk and dairy products. And obviously humans have co-evolved with animals over many millennia. So in a way, domestic animals domesticated humans as much as we domesticated animals. And so it's about these new landscapes where different ways of grazing are being applied, which leads to landscape health as well as much better animal welfare outcomes, obviously. And then things like agroforestry, which is a Southern Australia example of trying to rebuild landscapes that have been degraded. And finally, in Australia, just to mention something that may not be familiar to some of you, there's a really significant movement called landscape rehydration, which is where Australia being the driest continent apart from Antarctica, and also the most variable in rainfall for the continents, where water is obviously pivotal. And so there's a whole lot of whole movement called landscape rehydration, trying to reconnect water with the landscape, which is often what disconnect is what happens when landscape health declines. Here's an example near home with an innovative farmer. And so 21st century food systems, well, in my opinion, they'll be community-based and using a cooperative approach. And here is a group of cane farmers that are getting together to learn themselves how to change, cooperating with each other. And I know the other guys in the other presentations will talk about cooperatives a bit more, so I won't cover it too much. But it's really at that community scale and using those cooperative principles that is key. And I guess here's another example from a project that we're involved with for a number of years on a master unit in Australia called the Granite Belt Organic Growers, which is a small farmer cooperative where we supplied cooperatively food to the local capital city 3 hours away and work together to market our produce. And so I guess the challenge for 21st century food systems is how do we get these balanced food systems that look after the planet, take care of the other life on the planet, so not just about humans eating and everyone else can just be forgotten, and also feed us all too, and be economically equitable so that we all have a meaningful standard of life. And so I guess achieving that really needs to be done locally, regionally, nationally, and globally. But I think the key is to work locally and regionally initially, but certainly national and international policies play a really important role, and sharing information like we are in this forum also at the same time. Because the goal of food and farming systems, of course, is a nutritious and balanced diet for everyone, wherever you are on the planet, whatever your culture is. Are you getting a nutrition and balanced diet that's actually good for the landscape where it came from? It's good for the people that grow it because they've got a fair living wage and a meaningful life, and it's good for you too as you eat it. And so I guess, you know, the challenge of the 21st century, in the 20th century, the two main tools, if you like, of the economic capitalist model were to use the market's hidden hand, or also known as neoliberal economic policies of just let everyone do what they want, and the hidden hand will solve the problem. And industrial scale farming were the two main policy tools that we use to try and feed the world. And the problem is that if you let everyone just do what they want, the market doesn't achieve equilibrium environmentally. That's been proven again and again, that if you just allow economic sort of freedom, you tend to get environmental and social sort of issues arise, and that leads to negative feedback, and then you get a whole lot of more social issues. So we know that those two policy tools alone won't suffice. And one of the key things that we're
otras de
seeing in our
las
projects, and here's a
cosas en nuestro
project in North
proyecto
Queensland where a group of landholders
es
in
que
the
otro
valley
grupo
are trying to provide
de
habitat for
granjeros
an
está
endangered
tratando de
glider or a marsupial
proveer
glider called a
también
mahogany glider, as well as grazing and sugarcane. So that again, they're
santuarios
using
para
planning as
otras
a tool to
especies.
kind
Entonces
of
están
recreate
planeando para
a
recrear
landscape so
un
it can
paisaje
produce enough food
para que
for
puedan
people,
producir
but it
suficiente
also looks
alimento para las
after,
personas,
you know,
pero
the other
también para
creatures that
poder
live in those
cuidar a las
landscapes.
otras criaturas que
Planning is a
viven en
really
esos paisajes.
undersold and undervalued tool, in
Planeación
my opinion, and
es
it's really
algo
critical.
muy
And PR Sakar definitely
pobremente
stresses it strongly
planificado
in
y
Prout Theory.
resaltarlo
And so what we're trying to do is imagine
habla
new
extensamente sobre
rural
esto.
landscapes that
Entonces,
are
hablando
healthy,
sobre
resilient, so they can cope with climate change, with drought, with flood,
para
etc.,
poder luchar
and
contra
yet
la
still be
sequía
productive and
y
efficient,
aún así ser
because it's no good all going back
productivos y
to manual
eficientes,
labor.
porque
That's
no es
like not even
bueno
20th
regresar
century.
a la
So we
labor
need to give people
manual.
modern, you know, ways
Entonces
to
es
produce food as well.
importante entregarle a las personas
And of course, the other
mejores
key
maneras de
area to
producción.
influence is
Entonces, otra
economic
manera
policy, and
para
that's about
poder
decentralized,
influir
still having
es
markets,
poder
obviously, but having
descentralizar
regulations around
mercados, pero
those markets,
también tener
policies that stabilize
reglas y
pricing,
políticas que estabilicen
innovation,
las
encouraging
crisis,
innovation
la
with farmers and
innovación
food communities,
y
and it thinks
comunidades
holistically.
y
So here we are
holísticamente
doing a workshop with farmers in Australia, just teaching
en
them to sort of
Australia.
think a little bit more ecologically by getting them to do jigsaw puzzles in little competitions. But again, just using innovative education methods to get people to see things differently so they can manage things
Que
differently.
puedan colaborar para que puedan ver
And
las
so it's
cosas de
all
una manera
about
distinta.
new
Entonces
perspectives,
todo
new
esto es
values.
sobre cambiar
The
las
term we use in
perspectivas y
Australia is a
valores,
social license to farm,
y
where farmers now realize that it's more than just
los
food. They
granjeros
also are
para que
accountable
entiendan que
to
es más
other
allá
members
de
of their
comida, sino
society, that they
también que
grow
son
healthy
miembros de la
food, they
sociedad,
look
que
after
crean
the environment. So
alimentos
that's the modern
nutritivos.
thinking.
Entonces, esa es la
And that
manera
they can
moderna de
adapt to a
pensar y que se
changing
puedan
planet in
adaptar a
Australia.
un
There's really
cambio
significant climate changes
significativo
regionally
en cuestión de
that are
cambio
forcing
climático también en
farming systems
Australia
to
para que
move to whole new
fuerce a los
areas,
sistemas
or making farming systems
agroindustriales
unviable in some areas. And of course, looking
para actuar
after other
de una manera
non-living and
distinta.
non-living things on the planet.
Y
So that
también de
neo-humanistic
los
core principle.
seres con
And
conciencia
so we call that ecocentric, or we could call it
latente y
neo-humanist, but it
conciencia
balances
no
agriculture
latente.
and
Y
conservation,
balancear
and it's
también
both
el
top
tema de la
down, but
conservación.
essentially it's bottom up as well. And here's a friend of mine, Dave Carr, an
Es un amigo
ecologist,
mío,
sort
Dave
of
Carr,
helping graziers understand
y
the
está
importance of
hablando
biodiversity in their grazing landscape,
hablando de la
and
importancia de la
how it's a
biodiversidad
win-win
en el
for
paisaje.
them as graziers, but also for the wider environment. And so the model that we use in a lot of our change projects is a 3 ecological domains model, which we see has come out of PR Sakar's Prout fundamental principles. It's also Professor Stuart Hill developed a similar model. And so we have these 3 ecological domains of ecological, social, and personal. And in plain English, that's just, we've got to look after the planet, we've got to look after communities of people, and we've got to look after ourselves as well. And so it's that 3 domain model through which we do a lot of our change projects. And I guess what we're trying to do is move towards an agriculture that's good for the planet, good for communities, and good for us as individuals. And that's the great global challenge that we see all over the world. Here's a group near home of landholders, just again, just trying to learn new ways to manage their landscape and balance this challenge. Because balancing on a planet, and I've taken that from Professor David Cleveland from the University of California, his book, a great book. We have to balance on this planet and feed the world and look after the planet in the long term. And I guess, so towards that food security, but also towards that planetary security. And I think it's driven from the communities upwards. And so communities that key scale, and communities themselves, of course, are made up of individuals. So when it comes to influencing the food systems and farming systems, the 2 individuals, of course, are you as a consumer, what you eat, what you choose to eat, but the other end of it is the individual farmer and how they choose to farm. And those 2 are the kind of 2 key individuals, if you like. So if you're a consumer, if you eat food, then you're a consumer, then you have a lot of part to play. And if you're a farmer, or you work with farmers, then obviously the individual farmer and their block of land, like this friend of ours, Jill, who's a farmer near home, her property she
su
manages
propiedad
it. So
y
it's those
esta
two
persona
that
maneja
are
estos
critical.
alimentos que son
So on that
críticos.
note, I'll finish up and
Entonces,
say
voy
thank
a
you very
terminar
much
y
for
voy a dar las gracias por
attending and listening.
atender
Hopefully I didn't go
y
too quickly.
enlistarse. Espero que
Yeah,
voy
can
a
speak
ceder el
quickly
micrófono
when
de
you let me
vuelta
off
a
the
Pratik.
leash. And I hope I
Y
didn't go too far over time. But yeah,
espero que no
thank
me
you
haya
everyone.
excedido del tiempo. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, David.
Muchas
That
gracias,
was a
David.
really
Fue
wonderful,
una excelente
overview presentation. I think
enseñanza
it was
panorámica
very
del
educational
escenario,
because
fue
you
muy
covered so
educativa,
many
porque
different
cubriste muchos
aspects of, food
aspectos
security,
en
and not only in
relación a
terms
la
of
seguridad alimentaria,
planting the food, but
no
also
solamente en cuestión de
the social
plantar,
aspects,
sino también el tema
and for those of
social.
us who are not
Y para
familiar,
todos nosotros
also
que no
with
estamos
like
muy
what you're saying,
familiarizados con lo que
is it
estabas
land
hablando,
or landscapes need hydration? So that is
estos
really, really,
nuevos
very
abordajes de
educational and a good overview.
rehidratación de los
Thank you so
paisajes.
much.
Muchas gracias.
We look forward to having more
Esperamos
interaction
tener
and
más
sharing with you
interacción
after
y
everyone has
compartir
presented.
contigo
And
después de
now
que
I shall
hayan
move
terminado
on
los
to
demás
our second
presentadores. Voy a pasar con el segundo presentador,
who
que
is
¿quién
Professor
es?
Chiu
Profesor
Chiu Yi-Ru. Professor Chiu
Ye-Ru
is an
Chiu.
associate professor. Hello.
Yes.
Professor Chiu is an associate professor at Tzu Chi University in Hualien, Taiwan, and one of the major founders of the Chinese Proud Association and Hualien Permaculture Association. He is also a senior permaculture designer and teacher, teaching permaculture and cooperative economy in Taiwan and mainland China. Currently, he runs a cooperative movement based on a consumer cooperative in Tzu Chi University, which supports local organic natural farmers and the indigenous communities in the region. His presentation is entitled Empowering Communities through Coordinated Cooperation between Consumer and Producer Cooperatives in the Development of a Decentralized Regenerative Food System. So, welcome, Professor Chiu, and please carry on, take over.
Adelante.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kalyani.
Gracias,
yes,
Kalyani.
I'm going to
upload
share the screen.
Now. Yes.
Could you see my screen?
¿Pueden ver mi pantalla?
Not
My
yet.
slide?
No, todavía no.
Not yet.
Not yet, huh? Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
maybe you stop share first and then again.
Okay. Okay, could you see it?
Not yet, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Oh yeah, it's coming, it's coming.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Well, very nice to see you everyone on the internet. I'm Chiu Yi-Ru, another name Jiben Dave from Hualien, Taiwan. And as just David said that we could see there are two major patterns going on the earth about the food production. First one is the very detrimental one, industrialized food producing system, which was controlled by the capitalism and profit-making mindset. And another more sustainable food production system, which is go in line with the nature, community, and which is more based on cooperative approach. And
excuse me, Prof. Chiu.
Yes.
May I just ask you to show your PowerPoint in the slide view? Because right now it is not in slide view.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that is okay.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So, but who would decide the direction of future based on these two patterns, and which one we will choose? And the decision comes to the hand of us, you and me, the consumers. If we choose the sustainable one, and we are going to have a more sustainable future. If we are supporting the destructive, which carry a lot of negative impact to
vamos a
our
tener un mayor
society
impacto si
and our
escogemos un
environment,
sistema
then we are
o un
going to receive all
modelo
these
de producción de
consequences.
alimentos
So
que no es
here
sustentable
I'm
para el
going to
mundo, donde
present
estamos
you
poniendo en riesgo
a
nuestro
case
futuro.
study,
Entonces voy a
also a
presentarles
new model,
un estudio de un
which
caso, de un modelo
bring everybody in the form of a consumer cooperative
en la forma
that
de unas
support a more sustainable
cooperativas
food producing system.
para
So
producir
this is the way
alimentos.
I'm going
Entonces,
to
esa
show
es
you. So
la manera en que voy
here
a
the key is
mostrarles.
that
Estas son
the
las claves,
solution can
las
be us
soluciones
if we
que
unite
nosotros
and
podemos
create a new way
ser
to
nosotros
buy. So
si
this
creamos
is
una
a
nueva
very
manera de
typical
de comprar y vender.
food supply system
Entonces,
in Taiwan.
esa
For
fue una
example,
manera en
in
que
Taiwan,
creamos
we
algo
are
en
more
Taiwán.
likely based on the small farmer system.
Tenemos un
But they are
sistema de
facing a threat
más granjeros
of imported
pequeños
food industrial system. And
luchando
we
contra un
also
sistema
got another
industrial.
side, we have consumer. And the farmers and consumer are very far with the a huge middleman system in between. So here,
Entonces,
the farmers
aquí
cannot
los
cannot
agricultores
see who the consumer is. And
necesitan saber quiénes son sus consumidores y los consumidores
who produced food
también
for
necesitan saber
them.
quiénes producen
So in
alimentos
this
para
way,
ellos.
a lot
Entonces,
of
de esta
food
manera,
security, food safety issue may raise,
mucho
and the
mucho
wealth
de estos
disparity
alimentos van a
problem
ser
could be
consumidos
very,
por los
severe
consumidores
based on this
locales
system.
y
So
mantener
the
un
new
sistema
way to buy, a new
saludable.
pattern is
Entonces,
that
si
the
tenemos un
consumer
patrón nuevo, el
form a
consumidor
consumer cooperative
puede
and
también hacer una
by
cooperativa
unite their consuming
y de esta
power,
manera
they
unida
support the agricultural cooperatives
crean poder
and,
consumidor.
And also another kind of processing
Y también otro proceso se da,
cooperatives, different
otra
kind of
cooperativa
cooperatives. So in this way,
agricultora.
the driving force
Entonces, de esta
for a
manera
cooperative
se crea
economy is
una
consumer
autonomía
cooperative,
a través
which
de
everyone
entre estos
could
dos.
be in.
Así,
So
de
here,
cualquier
a
manera,
new
cualquiera puede estar
movement
dentro.
as a
Entonces se da un nuevo movimiento,
movement,
ya sea como
would be the key
movimiento
to
de,
trigger the
de
process.
consumidores.
And I'm going to present you
Y
the
voy a
case study in my
presentarles
university.
un caso de estudio en mi
So
universidad.
where is Hualien? Hualien
Entonces, ¿dónde es Hualien? Hualien está en una parte pequeña en la costa este de Taiwán.
Place of our consumer cooperative
es una cooperativa de consumidores
en
la Universidad de Sachin.
Tzu Chi Hospital is founded by the Buddhist master Zhen Yan master.
Este maestro
famous in organizing a lot of
es
charity,
quien organiza
activities around the world.
Muchas actividades, incluso en el mundo, en esta cuestión. Entonces, toda historia corrió en el año 2017 y de alguna manera aplicamos a través de nuestro ministro y llevó todo esto y aplicó esto para que pudiéramos empezar a aplicar nuestra autonomía en una cooperativa. Con este movimiento de economía cooperativa, entonces supimos que la educación tiene mucho crecimiento en este proceso. Entonces nos organizamos y capacitamos a nuestros empleadores, a nuestros empleados y a varios grupos. Hicimos campos, muchos estudios y pláticas para promover la idea del consumo, una cooperativa de consumidores, para que pudieran también entender que pueden comer comida deliciosa y también barata.
Because they did not take the cost of environment and social stabilization, all this kind of issue into the price. So
deberían de tener
and people do not know
un control sobre el precio. Entonces las personas no pueden saber sobre lo que sufren.
For example, in Taiwan,
por ejemplo, en Taiwán,
we have students facing the misery that they are getting lower and lower paid. And
tenemos personas que están siendo pagadas menos.
So, but actually they are not aware that somehow contributed by their day-to-day consuming. So we try to create a system thinking for them to understand the whole game. And actually they are one of the game, and they will be able to alter, divert the direction of the game. So we try to empower them to have that understanding. So after 2 years of education and propaganda, we somehow in year 2019, we formed the consumer cooperative called Sustainable Food Consumer Cooperative. And we got registered, and somehow we got the space, and we formed the shop, and we start our consumer cooperative. Yeah. And in our cooperative, we mostly provide the local organic product in order to support a more sustainable way of agricultural practice, and also protect our small farmers, because it's very hard for them to compete with the industrialized food system.
Competir contra un sistema industrial.
They need good consumers to
Entonces necesitas que los consumidores les apoyen. Y también es importante que también llevemos una política de reducir el plástico. Entonces ahora si tú vas al supermercado, utiliza bolsas de plástico para producir un alimento, una comida. Entonces nosotros reducimos el plástico.
And we pack in a bags like this, and people recycle their bags to buy. And we also
y acá las personas reciclan mucho. Por ejemplo, aquí tenemos arroz y vendemos el arroz que no está empacado, entonces la gente compra solamente lo que necesita, no tienen que comprar una gran bolsa.
And we recycle the bottle.
Y entonces tenemos esta política de reducir plástico.
I'd like to emphasize again,
y aquí volvemos a enfatizar educación. Siempre es más importante, el factor más importante para una cooperativa exitosa. Pero también enfatizamos en la educación. Tratamos de traer este sistema para que nuestros estudiantes y nuestras facultades y nuestros empleados entiendan que este es un sistema. Y estos son los 5 empleados de nuestra cooperativa de consumidores que comenzaron el proyecto. Entonces ahora podemos proveer 4 salarios. En 2 años pudimos convertirnos autosuficientes para mantener todos nuestros ingresos. Y aquí la transparencia es la clave y para el éxito corporativo. Entonces tenemos una carta semanal para crear transparencia,
we are getting feedback from them,
y también estamos teniendo comunicación de los agricultores, y estamos teniendo de esta manera movilizaciones y tenemos información. Algo muy interesante, una vez que ya puedes
way of running it.
Comprar.
For example, now we are cooperating with
ahora ya eres una cooperativa, ahora ya tenemos un hospital que se encuentra a nuestro costado.
For example, they have this
entonces ellos tienen un tratamiento.
And for the patient of this hospital, under this treatment, they are trained
varias terapias
to do some,
y tienen entrenamiento para hacer
product in order to help them to have the capacity to sustain themselves. So their product could be sold in our store. So
entonces,
in this way,
los productos que nosotros tenemos en los negocios aledaños también se pueden vender de manera natural. Y ahora voy a compartir una historia de cómo nuestra cooperativa de consumidores creó el soporte para la corporativa de productora. Ahora, una vez que nos unimos, una vez que nos establecemos, no debemos de olvidar nuestra misión. Nuestra misión es crear y soportar a los productores, a la cooperativa de productores. Aquí es la historia. Así como un país industrializado, tenemos una comunidad más funcional que nos ha enseñado en lugares remotos como en Taiwán. Y tenemos muchos temas. Por ejemplo, tenemos muchas personas de tercera edad, también pueblos indígenas, y tienen muchos problemas físicos y psíquicos. ¿Cómo trabajar con esto? Entonces trabajamos en crear trabajar en una economía nativa, indígena, trabajando con personas de tercera edad para que empiecen a criar gallinas. Entonces son personas retiradas y en una granja que ya no funcionaba. Estas personas, cada familia estaba creando 20 gallinas. Y entonces su situación física y psíquica fue mejorando porque estaban teniendo mayor trabajo físico, dándoles de comer a las gallinas. Y entonces su situación se volvió mucho mejor. Ya no están viendo televisión todo el día. Entonces, de esa manera, no solamente se les ayuda físicamente, sino psíquicamente también. Son autosuficientes al vender. Estos procesos ayudaron a que los participantes y nuestros estudiantes llegaran a cada comunidad y estuvieran involucrados en la economía local. Y también hubo muchos estudiantes en las áreas urbanas que no tenían idea de dónde venía el alimento. También se pudo ver el cambio en las ciudades cercanas a donde se encontraban estos. Entonces estos estudiantes iban a los pueblos entonces llevan alimento a las gallinas y a las personas indígenas. Y estos actos, originalmente cada uno de ellos, cada gallina tenía como 16, 17 huevos al día. Entonces una persona comía 1 o 2 al día y el resto lo vendían a la cooperativa de consumidores. Y debido a que estos son orgánicos y son huevos felices puestos por gallinas felices. De esta manera también estas familias cada semana se juntaban para limpiar los huevos y podías ver a la comunidad cómo regresaba, porque trabajaban juntos, resolvían problemas. Entonces la comunidad estaba junta. Eventualmente formaron una cooperativa que es parte de un nuevo sistema, una cooperativa basada en más amistad, y entonces hay más productividad. En muchas ocasiones podíamos ver que había muchas cooperativas, pero necesitamos tener el espíritu de las cooperativas para que podamos enfatizar una y otra vez en los principios de la cooperativa. Y también la educación es una parte muy importante, de la cooperativismo. Entonces, desde la universidad hasta el kinder, para visitar nuestra cooperativa, y aprenden la idea sobre ideas sostenibles y cómo escoger alimentos. Y los niños leerán cómo escoger alimentos buenos, porque esta duración va a decidir su futuro. Puedes cambiar la dirección del mundo poniendo una buena decisión en qué es lo que estás comprando. Entonces, nuestra cooperativa de consumidores. Entonces, ojalá el próximo paso vamos a tener un sistema de PGS, participación garantizada, un sistema de participación garantizada. Este sistema es muy funcional, una certificación orgánica, pero eso no es suficiente. Necesitamos también más preparación comunitaria. Entonces, esto no debería hacerse solamente a través del valor del mercado, sino de que la participación ciudadana se encuentre avalada para que nuestros productores puedan también tener sus propias certificaciones, y los estamos entrenando a nuestros consumidores para que puedan ir a las granjas y también sean entrenados para que tengan también sus propios certificados. Entonces, cuando tenemos certificados reales de consumidores y de productores, basado en estos dos, vamos a tener un sistema PGS. Y de esa manera vamos a desarrollar nuestro comercio electrónico. Porque todos nuestros productos van a ser producidos así. Y conforme tengamos mayores compradores, ese va a ser otro paso más adelante con PGS. Entonces, nosotros no vamos a estar como en Amazon y así, pero necesitamos tener un sistema. Entonces, no estamos vendiendo a través estamos vendiendo a través de la comunidad. Puedes comprar 10 huevos, entonces, pero podrías ser 20 personas. Y de esta manera podemos alentar a las personas a ver los problemas de la venta y puedan ver también soluciones de acuerdo en comunidades. Ok, muy bien. Entonces, ¿qué es lo que hemos aprendido? El primero es que todos los problemas deberían de ser resueltos. Hemos tratado de resolver el problema, ayudar a personas a entender que ellos son parte de todo el sistema y que tienen el derecho a decidir qué dirección debería de llevar el sistema. Y entonces, si una cooperativa de consumo para soportar a los industrias locales no iban a poder competir contra la cadena alimentaria industrial, entonces necesitan tener esta cooperativa para poder empezar a tener apoyar a cooperativas éticas y de agroproductores locales. Y esto ayudaría a tener un efecto local en cooperativas locales. Entonces es por eso que es educación, educación y educación es la clave para mantener este modelo. Entonces muy bien, esta es toda mi presentación. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Professor Chiu. That was really, really wonderful, inspiring to know that, you know, starting from a small town,
empezando de un pequeño pueblo, puedes hacer a través de la educación y trabajando con las comunidades locales, pudieron establecer una cooperativa de consumidores y de los productores al igual. Y para ayudar a los indígenas, gente retirada, incluso de vuelta hacia los productores, hasta las gallinas. Muchas gracias porque están incluso llegando a nuevas tecnologías como electrónicas, no en el modelo de Amazon, en algo basado en la comunidad.
So that these are really great new ideas,
son muy buenas
we
ideas
are sharing today.
Que estamos compartiendo el día de hoy y estaremos platicando más al respecto después de la sesión cuando todos hayan presentado. Solamente me gustaría recordarles a todas las personas que están escuchando que si tienen alguna pregunta para nuestros panelistas, por favor escriban en el chat ahora y podemos también tener una discusión. También si quieren hacer una cooperativa o por el lado con David o con el lado de las cooperativas, manden sus preguntas y hablaremos de ellas después de que tengamos nuestra tercera presentación. Entonces ahora me voy a mover hacia nuestra tercera presentación que va hacia nuestro equipo
the Philippines.
De las Filipinas.
So this is a team of Dada Dhamma Vedananda and Yogesh Pelseter.
Y Yogesh.
So Dhamma is here with us. And Yogesh is also here, but not fully, because it so happens that where he is in the Philippines, in Oroqueta, they don't have electricity today. So Yogesh is joining us. He's connecting through the phone, but he might not be able to fully participate. But fortunately, we are prepared, and so they have a video on their project that we will be seeing. But first of all, let me read the bio, the profile of Dada Dhamma and Yogesh. Dada Dhamma Vedananda is a yogic monk and meditation teacher for the organization Ananda Marga. 50 years ago, he dedicated his life to service to society, and he leads many ongoing service projects. He started a global natural healing network, Ananda Marga Wellness Centers, which now has 6 centers and hundreds of certified graduates all over the world. For the last 10 years, he has been working to
10 años ha estado trabajando para establecer Proud,
model city. Proud is
estableciendo una ciudad de Proud, basada en Proud, en la teoría de Proud,
so he wants
utilización
to work
progresiva,
a Proud model city with
para trabajar en una ciudad con modelo de Proud,
and this is now in the process of being realized through Oroqueta City and the Oroqueta project that we will be
en el Aracata proyecto, el proyecto de Aracata.
In a few minutes.
En unos momentos más que hablaremos de él.
El
otro miembro del equipo es Yogesh.
So Yogesh is a former web agency owner and developer. For the past 7 years, he has been traveling through Asia, Europe, and Mexico, working from his laptop.
México.
After learning meditation and hearing about Proud, the progressive
después de haber conocido sobre Proud y meditación, se interesó en trabajo social y fue introducido al proyecto de Dharma Vedananda. El último año fue contratado como consejero en tiempo completo en Aracuta con el propósito de sostener a los granjeros locales para establecer un sistema de una cooperativa. Y entonces ahora voy a compartir el micrófono y vamos a ver unos videos.
Thank you, Kalyani.
Gracias.
I'm sharing. Just let me know if I have to tune up or down the volume.
Can I just suggest one thing?
Sure, Dada.
And that is, those of you who are not 100% familiar with Zoom, this video is going to have a lot of subtitles in it. So if you have a split screen, which is on one side showing presenters, and on the other side it's showing the presentation, the video in this case, you can move the bar over so that the presenter's photos become very small and the presentation on your screen becomes much bigger. Then you can read the subtitles.
Hagan más pequeños y el video se vuelve más grande.
Hi, my name is Yogesh, and I'm here in Oroquieta City. Oroquieta City is a city of 80,000 people on the island of Mindanao. More than half the people are under the poverty line, which means that they make less than $5 per day. Most people are trapped in a financial system that is heavily stacked against them. They have very fertile land where they can grow almost anything, but they get paid very little for their produce. And it's so hard for them to even cover their basic. This situation pushes them into taking loans, and they're actively encouraged to take loans by various organizations. It is standard for companies and cooperatives to offer loans at 20% interest every 6 months. The loan system is such that people come to your house once per week and they will not leave until you have paid. Even though they can grow almost anything on their land, they are not able to process it into nice end products, and they're actively discouraged from doing this. Moreover, most people have the mentality that whatever is produced locally is not as good as what is coming from abroad. What usually happens here is that people cannot get good employment in their own barangay, in their own village, or even in their own city. They go to the big cities of the country, or they go abroad so that they can have a higher salary and send money back here. Most people don't want to go abroad. So this is the situation. Now, what is our solution? The Orococo solution is to set up a protistic cooperative where people have a share of the profits and they have a say in important matters. This cooperative should prioritize the people, the planet, and the profits in that order. Now, what should this cooperative do? Well, it turns out that one of the most underutilized raw materials coming from Oroquieta is coconuts. They have more than 8,000 hectares of coconuts. At Orococo, we set up local production centers in the villages where people can work close to home. They take the coconuts that are grown in the village, they process them in the village, and then it's shipped by tricycle to our local production center where we do quality control, packaging, labeling, and ship things out nationwide. Nobody's allowed to make more than 5 times what the minimum earner makes. Our central unit has been pre-approved for FDA, and once we're fully approved, we'll be able to ship to the supermarkets, to the malls, nationally, and we'll even be able to export if we so choose. Pre-approved means our facility has been inspected. After our renovations, it's been approved. We're currently doing lab testing for all our products, and within some time, we will be fully approved. We will have the nutrition facts on our labels. So Orococo makes all natural, healthy vegan products with no additives and no preservatives. We're not so concerned with maximizing profits. Rather, we want to offer high-quality employment to people close to their homes and continuously increase the salaries and dividends of all the members. Now, some of the most exciting things about this project, from a protistic point of view, is that the government is very supportive. In fact, the former mayor and the city councilor were very much part of starting this project together with Dara Darma. They are now working closely with the governor on the provincial level as board member and as the right hand of the governor. And the governor himself has become very interested in our project and is one of our best customers. The governor of the province is making a law that says that all supermarkets in all the 10 cities of the province need to have a section for local products, whether or not they are FDA approved. They're not allowed to say that it's specifically for Orococo, that's why they say local products, but it really came from our politician friends who wanted to boost this project. In addition, the government has given various types of support, including $7,000 plus grant in order for us to have FDA approval. They gave another $8,000 for us to set up our initial production centers. They have connected us with the Department of Science and Technology. We have people from the Department of Trade and Industry who are working with us for free on the government's payroll. The city agriculturist has been very involved in this project and still is. The head of the cooperatives is also very involved, and in fact, he's the one who set up the legal structure for the cooperative. In terms of getting sales, so we can make this sustainable, we are currently in 10 different outlets, and we want to increase that. We want to be in 1 or 2 or 3 outlets in all the 10 cities of the province, so that we start locally, then spreading to the bigger cities like Cagayan de Oro, and Davao, Cebu, and Manila. Our main strategy for online is to work with Facebook, Instagram, work with influencers to have them promote our products, and send people to our various outlets and send them to Shopee. In fact, you should all go to Shopee and help our local farmers by buying their products. And thank you very much.
Yo soy Jonah Perón. Vivo en Oroqueta, la ciudad de Oroqueta. Soy la madre de 8 niños. Antes de trabajar en Orococo, era hacer carbón. Hacer carbón es muy difícil, muy cansado. Nosotros tienes que vivir 2 semanas en la selva y llevas a los niños.
During this time, we have loan
durante
for
ese
our
tiempo,
food. By the time that we can sell our charcoal, we have to pay our loan.
Nosotros tenemos que
and
pagar.
The money that we have doesn't enough to pay our loan, so we start it all over again.
No tenemos el suficiente dinero para pagar
when I heard that
nuestro préstamo, necesitamos pedir otro préstamo.
Which come from coconut,
entonces, una vez que empezamos a trabajar con ese proyecto de coco, trabajamos 3 semanas sin salario, pero finalmente pudimos ver a nuestros productos y estábamos tan contentos que podíamos tener un salario y que las personas compraran nuestros productos
y
entonces podíamos dar más empleo a otras personas. Muchas gracias.
I'm Kedarnath, the youngest Margi in Oroqueta City and also one of the board of directors of the cooperative. I am 19 years old and also I am a student. I started when I saw Dada and Yogesh walking in the plaza. Then after a day, I joined their conference about Proud and the project. So suddenly, I really appreciated the idea. So after that, I voluntarily helped Yogesh and Dada go to the barangays, and we're doing our best. I'm doing also my best to move forward to be successful, because we know that this project, like a autistic way, it's a very, very big impact, especially when we get all the resources and distribute it properly. That's why we're very thankful that Dada and Yogesh are teaching us the Proudistic way. We're also having Proud Circle, teaching the members about Proud, and they really, really appreciated how important it is. So, thank you.
Nagikan sa kanindot nga Oroqueta, dala mga produktong gikan sa lubi nga nagmugnang kabaguhan. Ihatag sa Orococo nga usa ka kooperatiba ang tibok porsyento sa ginansya o surplus para sa kalambuan ug kaayuhan sa mga komunidad. Dili lang tanan natural, kahinsog ug produktong vegan nga gikan sa lubi ang atong nakuha, kundi nakatabang kita sa gatusan nga mga taga-barangay nga makapahawas gikan sa kalisod nga kahimtang sa kinabuhi ug atong nabatsyagan nga naay kwarta sa lubi.
Pueden convertir los cocos en pesos.
Ang atong coconut dako
Nuestro coco es muy abundante aquí en Oroquieta. Tenemos 8,036 hectáreas de coco.
And then karon yun nga sitwasyon sa giingon na barato kayo ang copras compare pud sa atong
muy barata comparado con otras copras que no son competitivas.
Value
added que tenemos valor agregado.
So nagsugod ta sa unang kabarangay
empezar a establecer estos 6 barangs.
Kadaghanan sa mga produktong lubi kay gipaghimo sa mga pabrika. Apan ang Orococo nagmugnag lokal nga sentro sa produksyon sa matag barangay nga magahatag og gikalidad nga trabaho paduol ras mga tawo ug ilang matag balay. Alang niini, dili na kinahanglan mo abot pa ang ilang mga bana ug mga anak aron makalikom og salapi.
Ako si Merlin Banawa, nagpuyo sa Binuangan, Oroqueta City. Dako kay kong pasalamat sa Orococo Binuangan Processing Unit kay tungod ni ini natagaan kog oportunidad o trabaho nga dili na ko kinahanglan pang moadto sa sentro.
Ang mga hilaw nga materyales gipalit sa lokal nga gagmay tagiya sa lutas. Giani sa mga lokal na tawo o gi-inisyal pagproseso sa matag barangay. Hinambigit sa tibuok pamilya sa makahulugan nga trabaho. Amo dayong gisala, gilutog utro o gikontrol ang kalidad sa matag produkto sa among sentro nga FDA approved nga pasilidad aron ang labing kataas nga kalidad ang maunaa sa inyong mga botelya.
Ako si Yogesh, usa ka konsultan sa Orococo. Matag adlaw kami manganta ug mag-meditate sa pulo nga Babanam Kewalam. Nga nagpasabot ug gugma sa tanan. Kini maoy naghimo sa among mga empleyado malayo sa kapitos ug kagoon. Ug kini nagadungag ug gugma sa among produkto.
Ang Orococo kay pinauyon sa socio-economic theory o PROUT, Progressive Utilization Theory, nga mao ang tanan bahin sa lokal nga pagpaningkamot sa kaugalingon o paghatag gahom sa lokal nga mga tawo.
Ako si Juna Pirong, taga Purok Binuangan, Oroqueta City. Pasalamat kong dako sa Orococo diin. Naghatag yun sila pantrabaho sa mga kababayinan, sa mga kabarangayan. Dako kayo ni siya gikaabag sa among ang adlaw-adlaw nga panginabuhi. Nang hinaot ko nga ang ambisyon sa Orococo nga maghatag og trabaho sa mga kababayinan, mapalapad pag mapalambo.
Ako si Kenneth Haim, 19 years old, isa sa Board of Directors sa Maong Kooperatiba. Sa Orococo, dili babag ang edad. So, mabatanon man ka or maidaran as long as nakay kapasidad ng trabaho ug nakay gugma sa pagtrabaho.
Jason Almonte, former mayor sa siyudad sa Oroqueta, isa ka supporter and organizer sa Orococo project. Niabot ang panahon nga limitado na ang kita sa lubi. Ang pupras dili na makasustain sa kapamilya. So, mangita ko pamali na daghan pa kayong maayong produkto nga mahimo sa mga lubi. Pero ang Maong project, himog na dili lang usa ka pamilya ang makabenepisyo, kundi komunidad.
We made sure nga ang business plan sa maong proyekto, 100% of its profit must go back to the community. Unang pinaka-importante nga aspeto ani nga programa.
From the moment that we started our work in Oroqueta, the target has been to enable the poor to collectively raise themselves out of their poverty. And when we have got to the point that many are so benefiting, then we will offer to apply the same principles in other cities and create a multi-city model.
Salamat nimo kay kining mga tawo adunay mas maayo nga kalidad sa kinabuhi ug mas taas nga sweldo alang silang kaugalingon ug ilang pamilya.
Namaskar.
Namaskar.
I'm so happy to be talking to you about this project in Oroquieta, which is a project which is really of my heart, that I love. And I've wanted this kind of project to happen for so many years. And finally, about 10 years ago, I really started working for it, according to the socioeconomic principles of what made the most sense to me, which is the progressive utilization theory, or in short, PROUT, proud. And we tried to make projects for the poor which could really help them over long term in Manila, in Iloilo, in Cebu over those years. And we learned so much, but it all failed. And when enough had been done, then there is a universal principle that when you make enough effort, the universe will help you, and it did. And we came in contact with some leaders of Oroquieta, beautiful persons, who brought us there, and we held workshop, 3 days workshop, for the 25 top elected and non-elected officials of the city, of the concepts of PROUT that we presented, and they immediately took it up to start to implement it, to help the poor to get food for them. So that meant starting backyard organic gardens, sometimes in the soil, sometimes in pots, sometimes in cutaway milk cartons, whatever. And it worked. And we started over 1,000 of those, which are still going on today. And then the city invested so beautifully in making a market, organic marketplace, just next to the main market. And all organic stuff started selling. So people had food, people were selling, but still, somehow, it was not satisfactory. Because though we had made a difference, we had not really changed the whole city. We hadn't made it into what we could point at and say, this is the way to live. So then, using PROUT principles, we did some research, some analysis, and we found the most underutilized and the most potential was the coconuts, because they were being sold to the multinational companies just for between 6 to 8 cents per coconut. It was a great loss after so much effort was going on for the coconut growers in the city of 80,000 people, where 40,000 of them are poor. So I went to Manila, and by another trick of fate, where I went to the coconut house, one thing led to another, and the next thing that happened was that one of the two heads of this coconut house in Manila came to Oroquieta and gave training, and we learned so many wonderful products and started working to make them. And again, one thing led to another, and we slowly developed Orococo. And the brother who was in the beginning of the video, Yogesh, he came from Sweden, and his presence has been just incredibly good, and he became absorbed into the society here. So as we went on, and more members came, and more staff came, and we went through the very difficult process of making the cooperative legalized, and going through the Bureau of Food and Drugs, and making a central processing unit, and it was a lot of effort, and it's more and still plenty of effort. But if it will just continue in the speed that it is, it's just a matter of some short time before we'll have a really impressive project in which not only 15 or 20 people are employed, but 50 or 100 people, and all of them involved in the decentralized decision-making process, all of them economically empowered. And when we have that, and it's continually expanding in different ways beyond coconut as well, then it is a model, and it will spread to other cities. And then the dream really starts to materialize, to be seen in reality. Because it's a dream of showing a real model, how people can live not exceptional people, ordinary people, who just all have a tremendous potential inside, which is never expressed and realized because it's not given a chance. And when we not only give it a chance, but we nourish it and develop it and talk to each other every day, doing our plans, everyone gets excited who is sleeping before. You have, for me, the most important project in the world, a growing, truly socioeconomic model, decentralized model, which can be applied at least in all the poor countries of the world. So I say that if our desire is strong enough to do something really good, there is no question. We are and we will be succeeding. And every single one who is watching this right now, you are to be, you are a part of this. And I congratulate you and I embrace you. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Wow, wasn't that so inspiring? I think I see many people writing in the chat because it is so wonderful, to see something like this happening, in a place where 50% of people are living under the poverty level. And I think many of us know that so many people from the Philippines have to leave their country, to go to another country, to work, to take care of other people's children when they are leaving their own children at home, their own families at home, their parents at home. And, to go to act as nurses all over the world and facing who knows what, If they are lucky, they get good employment. If not, they're at the mercy of other people. So it is so important and so wonderful to have this project, something like that, starting in right where they are from, in their own village. They don't even have to leave their barangay, and it is a decentralized production center for them. That is why decentralization is the way to go. So now we come to the end of our 3 presentations. I hope all of you have really, enjoyed it. If you have questions, please raise your hand or please write in the chat. Meanwhile, I think, our panelists also have so much to share with each other. They're coming to this issue of food security from slightly different angles. David in Australia is an agroecologist, and he really knows how to, bring the land back to fertile, healthy land, bring the landscape back, bring the water back, how to turn to new form of it, not a new, but maybe going back to the old ways, but in modern times, perhaps with modern tools to bring the land back to fertility. And he's teaching the people there, and maybe we from there we will go to the whole world. From Professor Chu in Taiwan, working with consumers who have money to pay, but they're not getting, the nutritious food that they need, and to connect them together so that using their consumer power, they can impact and influence what they get to buy, and also help the producers, from the people, from the farmers to the indigenous old folks, and even down to the chickens. And then, from Oroqueta in the Philippines, we have how a small town, well, not so small, 80,000, but where people right in the place where they live, they can, do something to set up their own cooperatives, to set up their own production center, and to make a living where they live. So now I invite our people to ask questions. Please write in the chat, or please write in or please write in or please raise your hand if you want, and we will take your questions. I'm looking through the chat now to see whether there are any questions. I think I see somewhere. Was there a question for David somewhere?
¿Había una pregunta para David?
Or does anyone want to raise their hands?
Si alguien quiere levantar sus manos.
It's a bit difficult for me to check the chat because of its running. And or else I will also like to invite our panelists who may want to ask each other questions, perhaps you want to know more information about setting up a cooperative, and then so you can ask the Oroqueta team or Prof. Chiu from Taiwan, or you want to know a bit more about working on regenerative agriculture, you can ask
Pueden preguntar.
David?
David?
Yes, is there someone speaking?
I can say something.
Kalyani, I can make one comment?
Sure, go ahead, please, Dada.
I think I mentioned in the chat that there are three things which are interrelated. One is agriculture, economy, and health. To develop economy, we have to develop agriculture, diversified agriculture, because that is the base from where even the industries develop. And then, so economy will benefit if emphasis is there on agriculture, rural agriculture. And what Yogesh and what Jivan and other people have shown, that it is possible to do that. And also what David also mentioned. But I think that we should not neglect the health aspect. So we should develop also a pharmaceutical industry related to agriculture, so that we can create health products, local remedies. And Thailand has done that quite effectively. And it would be nice if Philippines also does it. And I think from all your presentations, I want to really congratulate all of you. And I think the Proud movement in India has much to learn from what you people are doing, because I think that is the way for Proud Fall, is to build the economic base of the community.
Can I ask a question? Can you guys hear me?
¿Puedo hacer una pregunta? ¿Pueden escucharme?
Hi, it's Matt Oppenheim in Nashville, North Carolina. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. One question I have is that the workers in the co-op families, and I'm sure they pick up the spirit of cooperation when they know people working there. So my question is, has the capital that's come back to the community informally impacted other people as well? Do you know what I mean? Have other local people living there been able to invest capital in, not officially, but informally?
No oficialmente, pero informalmente.
Dada, would you like to
Dada, ¿le gustaría responder eso?
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I was looking at the chat at the same time. I heard your words, but didn't catch the entire question.
Maybe Yogesh, did you hear?
Yeah, the question was if money has come back to the community in other ways also, has their salaries gone back to the community in other ways?
No, or are local people able to start their own small industries too outside of your model? And the spirit of cooperation spreading.
I see. At this time, not so much. We have maybe 10 or 15 employees, and they're quite engaged within what we're doing. I think once we're bigger, we can employ more people. Then there's scope for that. People are also not yet so very dynamic in terms of taking their own initiatives and coming up with other ideas. But there's some small things happening. Some people are starting to plant ginger in their backyards that they will then sell. So small things like that are happening, but not on a significant scale.
Well, there are some individuals who make small products in different ways, but they don't have access to much market, and and their products are not professional either. So the important thing is to go step by step in as meaningful a way as possible. Time is short. Time is short means to say that our target is to make thriving models and spread them so that real movement can take place, because we cannot call this a real proud movement yet. It's just a proud project. It hasn't completely taken over the city yet, even though so many people in the city do know about it. But we have to be extremely concentrated with our priorities. Otherwise, we'll wake up one day and find out that years have gone by and we have not achieved what we've been aiming toward.
Thank you. I think, the project sounds really wonderful and it's inspiring everybody, but this is really early days for the project still. And in fact, Yogesh was telling me that they are now, looking to market it, right? I think he also said that in the video, now finally all the products are up to standard and the packaging and all that is good, and now they're ready to move into marketing. So in fact, this is a message out to people out there. If you are interested in helping, they need maybe help with people who perhaps are very experienced in marketing, to please step forward, contact them and help them to go launch into a big marketing still starting locally as far as possible, locally meaning not just Oroqueta but in the province. They already have government support for that, but that is the starting point, and then going beyond. Am I correct to say that?
Yes. That's right.
Absolutely. The very big challenge is to reach a big enough market. Everything is ready to go. If we have more demand, we can scale up our production 5 times or maybe 10 times within a few months. We delude ourselves, but we need to have that demand. That's what we've been working on for a few months, and that's our very, very main focus.
Okay, I see one question in the chat. I'm reading it out loud. How did you convince the government to get on board with the idea of proud cooperatives? If the system we are in is capitalist-driven in nature, is it more of convincing the ground people first, and then moving on to convincing the mayor, producers, government? That's the question. Kalyani, you're muted if you're saying something. I don't know. So, all right. So, I'll begin to answer that question, and then I think that Jivandev, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Yiruchu. I think that you'll have something to say on this too. And if I understood David's work right from the beginning, you're maybe working with the government. In our case, I started with a government official. She was, this was a counselor from Oroqueta. We didn't even know that she was a government official and she was coming repeatedly to our wellness center. That was the first time I met her. It was the third time that she'd been there. And when I came to know that she was a counselor, which is a highly elected position in the city, then I concentrated on convincing her about Proud. And then she was the one who invited me and one other Proud facilitator, Professor Shiva, to give this workshop for the top 25 elected and non-elected officials of the city, and it moved from there. And we found really sincere. We were lucky because there were some very sincere people working in that city. So it was a combination of factors. But I think everywhere, I mean, here and there, we're going to find very sincere people who work with the government, even in a country like Maharlika, which is the real name of the Philippines, which is so enmeshed deeply in corruption. There are still individuals who are good. So we find them.
Y los encontramos.
Can either of the other two of you add something?
¿Alguno de ustedes dos más quisiera compartir algo? Sí.
My experience is that
Mi experiencia es que
create a cooperative, a ready market is really important. So for me,
para mí,
most
fue muy importante y fue más fácil el empezar con el mercado de los consumidores. Soy un consumidor, entonces de esta manera pudimos empezar a movilizar a consumidores, fue más fácil empezar algo. Y otra de las cosas que empecé fue que empezamos a tener resultados desde el principio. Como agrego completamente con Dada Dharma Vedana que todavía hay personas en el gobierno que tienen buenas intenciones. Entonces, si podemos tener los recursos de ellos, podemos utilizar estos recursos y siendo combinados, podríamos empezar también más fácilmente, pero para mí las cosas más difíciles para empezar fue el tema de la educación, empecé, y es por eso que lo estuve enfatizando una y otra vez. Tuvimos que entrenar, estamos entrenados para competir, pero no para cooperar. Entonces, incluso para mí y para otros miembros, estamos empezando a aprender la cooperación desde cero. Y también hay una de cómo hacer una es una educación. Entonces enfatizo también en educación.
No. Oh, yeah, he's talking. Thank you. We are trying to read the questions from the chat, and it's a bit difficult to read it. Ajit has asked a question, but it keeps running. Question to panelists. How did you convince the government? Oh, that's the question that also has been asked, right? You know, okay. Now, Krishna Priya.
There's one other question there, Kalyani.
Okay, is it from Krishna Priya?
Where can we find, yeah, exactly. Where can we find information on how to create co-ops based on Baba's principles? Perhaps Dada Dharma Vedananda, you could share quickly about what we've been talking about with James Quilligan.
Yeah. We've been having, I'm in the city of Cebu, and in the moment, because of the COVID, ever since March, I haven't been able to go to Oroquieta. I used to go there frequently. So as a result, we've been having at least weekly meetings. And for a few months, this is actually very important. Yogesh, myself, Govinda, of Sweden, who's so extremely knowledgeable about Proud. We've been having meetings together with James Quilligan, who is, I think many of you have heard of him, but maybe some have. I think maybe many have not also, and that is, he's a highly placed economist who's worked as on behalf of many governments and high-placed officials. Anyway, he loves Prout through and through. So we had many meetings with him, and we discussed policies and principles and very, very fundamental things, which would apply not only to the work that we're doing here, but everywhere. And we created a document, which Yogesh, we should make available. And I think maybe there's some place, maybe we can send it to the Gurukul magazine
a
or,
la
and
revista
let it
Gurukul.
get printed. I think that there's nothing objectionable in
Creo que
it.
no hay nada objetable en este
And
sentido.
that will be a useful document
Esto
for
será
all.
un
It is a
documento muy
document
útil para todos.
in a process, but we
documento
took
que
it
está en
very
proceso,
far. We
pero
really worked hard
llevamos
on this
muy-
thing. How much of it we actually
tanto de
implemented
esto
here,
es implementado
I
aquí?
have never analyzed.
Nunca se ha analizado.
But it has been very useful for
Pero ha
us.
sido muy útil para nosotros.
As to finding other because
En
there's
cuestión de
there's so
encontrar,
much
porque hay
about
mucho
cooperatives,
sobre cooperativas,
which PR Sarkar
de lo que
explained,
PR
but there's
explicó,
also so much
pero también hay
more
mucho
that
más
he didn't explain,
que no explicó.
and that we just
estamos
figure it out as we
Simplemente
go
ahorita
along.
nos vamos
And
dando
that's
cuenta conforme vamos
that's a hassle, you know. But that's
caminando.
and I'm sure that was done intentionally for us to
Y que
develop
siento que
ourselves.
eso fue
And the
intencionalmente
more of
para
our
que nosotros lo
experience
desarrolláramos.
that we can
Y
put in
conforme más
writing
llevamos a
and
nuestra
make it into a
experiencia,
proper presentation, Yiruchu, if you can do that,
de Iruchu,
that will
me
be
gustaría que nos
useful
podría
so that
compartir.
other people can follow our processes. Anyway, if you want to find stuff about cooperatives in the writing of PR Sarkar, you only need to get his books on disc and do a search for cooperatives, and all that stuff will
Podríamos
come
hacer un
up.
libro sobre cooperativas.
Thank you, Dada. Prof.
gracias,
Chu,
Dada.
would you like to respond or say something
Chu, ¿te
from your
gustaría
experience?
compartir algo?
Yeah.
Sí,
My experience is that
mi experiencia
no
es
need to
que
be hurried to
no hay-
register a cooperative if you do not
no hay
have
que tener mucha
sufficient and
prisa
good
para registrar a
foundation.
una cooperativa,
Otherwise, you may have a
porque de
disaster.
lo contrario
in the
vas a
end.
tener un
So, because
desastre en el
people
final.
should
Porque las
feel
personas
very deeply that
deben
we
de
need to
sentir
unite together. We need to
primero
work
que
together,
necesitan
and
unirse
the collective good will be
colectivamente.
part of my good. So, and that's why we spend
Entonces es
almost
por eso
3
que nosotros
years in
pasamos casi 3
education.
años
Then,
dedicados a
once it's
educación
ready, we,
y después una vez que
form
estaba
the,
listo
cooperative.
formamos
So
la
you must make
cooperativa.
sure the
Entonces
foundation,
deben
which is people
hacer que la
who
fundación
have
sea
whole
fuerte para que la gente soporte el proyecto.
Otherwise, you may bring
De
yourself
lo
a big
contrario,
trouble.
vas a
Then,
encontrarte en problemas.
actually, there are a lot of materials
Entonces,
available on the internet about how to register a cooperative, and different countries have different law and regulation. Some are good, some are not so good. For example,
algunas
in
cosas son buenas y
Taiwan,
algunas cosas no
the
son buenas. Por ejemplo, en Taiwán,
regulation to register
las reglas
is not, which is not so flexible for
no son muy
you
flexibles
to
para que,
adapt all situation. But maybe some other country is the,
por ejemplo, para que hagas una cooperativa,
law
pero tal vez en
regulation
otros
for registering a
países
cooperative is
no
much more
tengan
friendly.
tantos problemas para hacer
However, we gone through
cooperativas.
that. So what I like to mention is that the key points.
Entonces lo que tengo que mencionar es que los puntos importantes no sobre registrar una cooperativa. Esto viene en realidad en cómo educar a tus miembros y que las personas quieran trabajar juntos.
Or if there's no such a movement,
y si hay un
then
movimiento,
what you could do is that you choose
lo que
the
puedes hacer es que tú escoges una comunidad. En mi caso,
we are in a university,
nosotros somos una universidad
university. So basically,
que está basada en la diversidad. Entonces hay una ética en esta cuestión. Entonces podemos escoger la ética de esa comunidad que va de acuerdo con la línea del instituto y que quieren, y aparte hablan en su propio idioma, en su propio lenguaje. Entonces se entiende la comunidad y esos miembros. ¿Qué es lo que quieren? ¿Qué es lo que hay en sus corazones? Y tratar de hablar su lenguaje e interpretar esto. La idea de la cooperativismo. Crear una cooperativa no es la prioridad, es crear la plataforma para que sea para las personas es la parte más esencial, al menos en mi parte es lo que puedo compartir.
I think that is very, very wise words
son palabras muy sabias.
Prof. Chu, maybe from hard experience.
De experiencia
I think that is really
picando
true.
Piedra.
We need the people to want to do it, and there are so many problems to overcome. So like he said, maybe registering is not necessarily the first step. It is getting people who want to do it. For example, I know that sometimes when you are just trying to set up a small cooperative, besides all the other problems, the thing is that your price is more expensive than what they can get from the big chain stores, or from Amazon. So how do you get them to support? And it is here again, we go back to the local community, that they want to support the local community, and they understand why, and we need that. We need that, I think, so I don't know whether this applies to all cases, but, I think this is pretty much a general principle, maybe, for us to keep in mind for everyone else who's trying to set up a consumer cooperative. I mean, this is more to do related to consumer cooperatives. I have another question which I would like to bring up.
You've just now raised a question. You've raised a question, what do we do about the fact that our products are by nature more expensive? And I do have something to say on that, but I'd like to suggest, David, if you have any comment on these things first, because Yiru Chu and myself and Yogesh, we've been dominating until now. So, do you have some comment on that?
Pero no sé si tú tengas algún comentario en esto para comenzar.
Oh, thanks, Dada. Yeah, look, it's been just really enjoyable listening to you guys and your experience and things. Certainly, the work we've been doing here is very similar. The principles for enabling social cohesion and enabling community change are the same, I think, everywhere. I agree with your point, Professor, about you've got to create a positive, socially coherent environment before you worry about formalizing co-ops. You can't make them from the top down. They don't work from the top down. They only work from the bottom up in our experience. So yeah, 100% agree with that, and that's the experience we've found here. I guess for us it's about, like you mentioned, Dada, you identified a key person in the community to start your engagement with. So we have these, we go through these strategies of engagement initially, and that could be with grassroots or with key government visuals or with key business people. We're trying to identify the key stakeholders through which our project can be enabled. So we identify the barrier people and we identify the enabling people and organizations, and obviously it's easy to go where the water flows. You're always going to have the barriers, but yeah, so I think, yeah, it's just, I don't think I'm adding anything new there, apart from maybe the fact that in our experience, if you're meeting people's needs, and they're not just the needs for money, which are obviously important and fair livelihood, but their internal needs of a satisfying life and their ability to live a meaningful life for themselves. If your project is offering that for them, then they're going to get engaged with you. They're going to come along with you, and you're going to get momentum. So I think that's the experience we've found with the sugarcane communities of North Queensland. Once the guys really clarified that the changes were really not just helping them individually in their farms, but actually helping their communities, which are under a lot of stress, then the momentum is there. So it's about giving people a meaningful life, I think, and they can see that's where the project's going, and you've enabled change. Really, we always say, I don't know if anyone can see, but it's about getting to people to go from being cross-armed to open. As soon as you get people from this to that, the rest is easy. But the first thing you've got to do is get them from that to that. But as soon as you get them with their arms unfolded, the rest is pretty much, I'm not saying easy, but that's the hardest part of the whole thing. Anyway, I don't know if I've added much to it, so no, I've just been enjoying this.
No, you did add, and you brought a whole bunch of things in my head. One of the greatest moments was in an early stage when we were having a meeting with representatives from the agriculture department in Oroquieta City. And at one point, one of them said, and she was immediately supported by the others that were there, she said, wow, this is going to be an economic revolution. That was her words, you know? When she said that, I understood, they're really catching it. Now, you spoke about, David, you spoke about getting a key person Now, a key person doesn't mean a key person of the government, but it just happens that the government officials that we worked with, with a couple of them, they are very much loved individuals.
Yeah. They have to be respected in the community. So
I know your meaning was influential persons.
And respected.
Big circles of influence.
Yeah.
When you find that person or those persons, and if they get convinced and they start and they take it up as their own mission, then things move. In the beginning stage, in order to get the confidence of the people, we didn't start with the cooperative. We started with this much simpler program of backyard organic gardens, and it thrived, and then the city was enthusiastic to make a market. So things started moving in themselves. But when the point came that Yogesh went to then Professor's point became so much. That was when the education point really started to get important, because we hadn't made a co-op yet. Well, the market was a kind of co-op, but not a real one. And when we really started to make the co-op, then that was the point that Yogesh started the Proud Study Circles, using Dada Maheshwarananda what's that sister's name who did the book with him? I'm sorry that I don't remember her name. Anyways, their book was a great material for making these study circles.
Then Mirror Price, Mirror.
Yeah, Mirror Price. That's right. Mirabai. And the great work that she did together with Dada Maheshwarananda. And one last point that I will add, because there was a question about pricing. This has been a real challenge. Some of our products are expensive. Only one was quite cheap and accessible to a lot of people. And so the more expensive products we've been selling to people who have the financial capacity. But recently we've been making a very huge effort to get a totally different product which is cheap. And I think it's going to make a big impact. So you just have to do it. You know, you have to find a way to get cheap enough products. But I think Professor's point about consumer co-ops, which we haven't stressed enough. We only have the one consumers co-op in Oroquieta. It's on a temporary pause while it's being remodeled. I think that this would be a very good thing, and it's an easy thing that we can work to make consumers cooperatives, at least in wherever we have sympathizers and Ananda Marga units, for example, in different places. I have experience making consumers cooperative before I ever came to this country. And if you start small and make it grow, it's very conceivable, and then that is a ready market for our products. That, I think that would be a very useful thing to do. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I would like to ask, you know, because I visited Oroquieta with Dada a few years back as we were trying to get things off the ground, Dada. And at that time, they talked about maybe the local hospitals and the you know, and the, like, say, government departments, because the government was, you know, very supportive, that maybe their canteens, you know, could buy the products. And I noted that in Prof. Chu's university, you know, of course you have the university stuff, and then he mentioned the hospital. I was wondering whether the hospital is also part of the, you know, consumer cooperative and buying things. So you need big buying power in that way, you know, because you need that. So, yeah.
Those are called anchor institutions or anchor clients. And yeah, and I've just made a note of that we should go back to trying to make that happen. But it can only be possible with the products which are cheap enough, so which is our coconut vinegar and spicy vinegar, I should say. So yes, we can. I think that's a very, very good idea, and we should go back to it. I'd forgotten it.
Probablemente deberíamos de regresar a esto y lo había olvidado.
Yogesh, make a note.
Yogesh.
So yeah, anchor customers, anchor institutions.
Anclar clientes y también empresas.
Like the shopping malls have their anchor tenants, so you need some anchors too.
De anclas.
How about your experience, Prof. Chu? Do you have some anchors in your consumer cooperative or not?
Anclas en tu cooperativa o no?
Actually, as Kalyani just said that actually our scale is still small, but we are aiming at the doctors, nurses who are receiving very high pay in the hospital.
Enfermeras que tienen un buen sueldo en hospitales. Y de esta manera podemos crecer nuestra capacidad de consumidores. Y también puedes tener muchas cosas al respecto.
About the indigenous senior villagers
también a nuestros
another
pobladores.
Project we are going on is the guarantee participatory guarantee system (PGS).
Y también podemos garantizar.
So with that partition, with that buying power, with that ready market, you are very convincing for a lot of small farmers.
Vas a tener muchas personas que son pequeños productores,
so in this
granjeros.
Way, you'll be more influential
Y vas a poder ser más,
probably
this
al área. Dada say about
y eso es lo que decía Dada Veda sobre este sistema de anclaje en el cual.
Yeah.
Sí.
Thank you. You know, just a quick you know, comment on what Prof. Chu said. When I said hospital, of course, you know, the nurses and doctors in their individual capacities, but I was thinking more of the hospital, maybe, you know, they would like provide food for the patients, you know, and then they have their canteens for the staff. So that kind of, you know, not as an individual, but as an institution, kind of capacity
ese tipo de capacidad que estamos buscando, ¿no?
So far, we try to make 30% of the rice supply in the hospital restaurants is
proveído a la residencia del
our organic farmers in local areas.
Nuestros
gradually we try
productores locales. Hemos estado creciendo el porcentaje de nuestra comida orgánica.
So it's unprocessed. So here one thing I learned is that never start the thing individually by you alone. Try to find an institute and a ready community or functional community. So you need to work with a lot of people.
Necesitas trabajar con muchas personas.
So try to find that institute or company or governmental department
muchos departamentos
should be start with. Then
para estar trabajando,
work with them, not to work by yourself. Yeah, that's what I learned over almost 30 years
a lo largo de
working for
30 años. Yeah. Sí.
Okay, that was.
Can I add quickly to that, Kalyani? I think for me and our PAP work here in Australia over many years too, not quite as many as 30, so I've got to catch up to you, Professor. But the key thing for us is, engaging with the wider community is so important. Like, there's no point setting something up that's just really insular looking, because we're not doing this for ourselves. So it's really trying to make it really relevant for the communities in which you live.
Esto es muy relevante para las
comunidades
de australianas en educación de la retención del agua, no solamente una visión externa, ¿no? Nosotros tenemos una visión interna en al menos aquí en Australia.
Too insular if you just focused on yourself and your own projects. So always looking outward and engaging is really important.
Sí, una visión externa es importante.
Okay, thank you for that, David. I just here have another question. Does cheap reduce the quality, or again design this bottom up? I'm not quite sure about the second question, but does cheap reduce the quality? Can Yogesh or Dada or Prof. Chu or even David, you know, answer this question, please?
Responder eso.
Well,
Bueno,
if I understand correctly,
por lo que entiendo
I mean, from our experience here, when we first came here, we wanted to take the local raw materials, let the locals process it, and then have the locals be the one to buy it also, producing things like cheap soy sauce for the locals, cheap oil, and what we found is that it is extremely hard to compete with big business in terms of like the Minola oil they use here, or the Silver Swan soy sauce, where they sell. But it's so very cheap. We're not able to compete on price there. So we had to change our strategy and go for a more middle to upper class market. I think unless you have a lot of investment in big centralized facilities, then it might be very difficult to really get down into the very cheap, the very cheapest type of products. So we're going.
Can I add to that? Can I add to that, Yogesh? I mean, you're up against an industrial capitalist food system, of which scale is one of the pillars of success. So when you're at a scale that they are, then there's no way. So, and when you've got the economic parameters set so that there's no accounting of environmental and social costs, then it's a different game that they're playing. They're playing soccer and you're playing football or whatever, or cricket. So sorry, I'm Australian, so it's football and cricket. But it's a different world. So sometimes the model or the framework that we look at things through is Baba's system of essential, demi-essential, and luxury sort of different items. Or the term we use here is essential and discretionary and luxury products. So if you're trying to compete on an essential product like a staple like rice, etc., and you're trying to do it cheaply, it's very hard because most staple food products around the world are, unless there's subsistence, they're in the industrial model. It's only demi-essential and luxury type products that are still can be done at that smaller scale, and even then some of them are obviously industrialized. So yeah, you do have to be strategic with what you're trying to market, but that's the big part of the challenge here. How can we make essential items, put the manufacturing of them back into much more pietistic food systems, because they've been scaled up to a global level and cheapened down to a point which is not, it's not at the natural value, to use P.R. Sakar's term of natural value. It's not at that natural value anymore. So it's very, very hard to redesign for essential items, I think. Anyway.
At the same time, I was about to say something, and I saw that Niraj Kohli says the key is to find niches in the marketplace, as niches are the most profitable, don't compete to strength, etc. The product that we have, which can sell well, is not really being produced by the multinational company, by the huge companies, and that is our spicy vinegar. That is some. I mean, there is a popular spicy vinegar in the market, but it's not a giant company that's producing it. So okay, that's our present product, which is cheap enough, and then we had to, smash the head to try to think of products which could work, and new products essentially, and things, the cosmic force helps. So what we've just run into over the last couple of weeks is it's quite a process that led us to it, but when you're determined, it comes. And we're going to be producing coconut butter, which nobody is making, and to make it more appealing, we will mix it with just a little bit of peanut butter, so it's going to taste like it will be coconut peanut butter, and we can do it cheaply. And I know that it, and I know that it can hit, and then we will make a variety of it, which will be coconut chocolate peanut butter. So, these kind of products, which are quite near to what are very commonly being consumed, because peanut butter is popular here, it can really hit. And I have some confidence in this. We're just trying to perfect it now. We're quite close to that. But we don't have a choice. We've got to find, if we're really going to get big, we have to find some cheap products that work. And we have to go for size. If we don't go for size, if we go on functioning on a very small level, then we can only help very few people like that. Now, the same is not true in my experience, and I'm sure that Professor Chu has something to say about this, with the consumer cooperatives. This is a challenge of the producers cooperatives. But the consumers cooperatives, they can undercut, maybe I'm wrong on this. Are you able to undercut the big supermarkets or not?
¿Puedes cortar a los supermercados o no?
Yeah, price is also a big challenge for us. We got a lot of students, even employees, they are so addicted to the cheap and industrialized products. And so it has been a big challenge for us. So what we are doing, I totally agree what Dada said, to find a niche for your members or and also your product. So here, one thing we learned is that another way to get a reasonable price is to reduce the distance from the consumer and producer. For example, we have a very, very cheap organic banana available in our cooperative, because it comes from our own member itself, or even our nearby producer. So in this way, we could somehow reduce the price. And of course, in general, our product is higher than others, but still, we are getting some products cheaper than the big giant supply chain and chain supermarkets. So it has been always a challenge. So that's why I emphasize again, education for your consumer, because they need to know the so-called cheap is not cheap at all. Actually, it's very costly. If you put in terms of environment, in terms of your future economy.
Thank you very much, Prof. Chu, and thank you very much to everyone. We are all getting caught up, and questions are coming in, but I'm afraid our time has more or less come to the end. So that was a really great discussion. I wanted to round up, but I think we don't have too much time for that, except to say that some of the key points I think is that don't be too quick to register your cooperative. Make sure you have a key influencer or someone with you. Make sure you have a community working with you already, or a small group at least. If you are in a producer, get a key anchor buyer if you can, and more to come, but perhaps we can keep this conversation going if people would like the contact information of our panelists. If you don't mind, please write it down in the chat how people can contact you for more information. And also, I think the point that Dada raised about what you have written up from your conversations with James Gilligan, and maybe if Prof. Chu or David, if you have anything that you want to put in writing, or anything already in writing that you can share, or even not in writing, please, you can send it to me first, and certainly some of it can go into our quarterly Gurukul Network magazine, and we'll certainly look to see how we can share more on this, which is a very important topic with the rest of the world. So I think with that, we have more or less our host. Is that correct, that we have more or less come to the end of our time, and we have to make way for the next session?
Is it so? I thought we had until 12:30.
Yeah. No, not 12:30. We have until about 12:20 at the most, or 12:15, because they have to prepare for the next session. Yeah. Is that correct, Pratik? Are
if you have 2 or 3 minutes, let Niraj Kohli has his hand up, and he really wanted to speak something, and he needs to be unmuted. Niraj Kohli, I see his hand up.
Thank you, Dada. I'm afraid I'm not able to track the.
Just a second.
Is it
Pretty? Can you unmute him, Niraj?
Yes, I'm. Just give me a second.
Roni is saying there's 30 minutes free space after this. I don't know if that's correct.
There. Now you're unmuted, Niraj. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think one of the things that you may find
Creo que algunas de las cosas que puedes encontrar aquí es que estás tratando de competir en productos.
And I think the emerging trend, if you take the marketplace, is changing, and it is really on business models.
Y en realidad
you know, if you take companies that have really gone from being no companies to on the commercial marketplace, if you look at it, a company like Airbnb, who just went public on a much larger scale.
En una
they
escala más grande.
They have kind of beaten companies like Hilton for hotels to provide a service. And I think the key is, and in the consumer space, what you find, it is manufacturers to consumer direct. I've run businesses in excess of $250 million, and what you'll find, I used to run a business, $150 million, used to generate $45 million in profit. Niches are where profits are. But I think even in that case, in today's world, you have to look at what are the pain points that consumers are willing to pay, because if there is a need, a want, a desire that basically can be serviced, you have to create a business model, because for certain things, people are willing to pay more. And your larger companies are slower to react to those needs because they want large opportunities. They don't want small opportunities.
Que no quieren pequeñas oportunidades, quieren oportunidades grandes. Entonces, porque tenemos
we may be
una
able
respuesta,
to understand those needs.
Podemos entender esas necesidades.
Whereas if you compete on price, the larger companies are playing their game,
precio,
and you are always going to be behind.
Siempre vas a estar
and so I think
Entonces
let's be mindful of the fact that,
ser considerados
and especially when I talk about digital technologies, what they call peer-to-peer networks. Let's look at the next generation of technology that really connects us, consumers, to suppliers. So, and that's what Amazon has really done, is they remove digital friction. So they have basically putting malls out of business. So as if one has a viewpoint, we can't do everything, but I think in areas that really happen to be core to our on a whether local basis or a regional basis, you try to, because I think we are going to be much further along if we attempt that way versus always trying to get the lowest price. Apple did not become what it is by being the lowest price. You don't want to be the lowest price. You want to be, and we're not trying to make the most profit, but what we are trying to do, if you do make profit, it is basically you can reinvest for something else that really keeps it sustainable. I call it about triple bottom line: people, profits, planet. So, and the profits can be reinvested into creating something that's sustainable. And what I classify is that you look at a circular economy. So don't only look at the consumable product, but what happens to the waste. And is there something that can be collected? How much is, how long does your product last? So most of the value that is today being captured is strictly on when you consume. What is the cheapest? What is the useful life? If we are doing some products, we say, okay, how long does our product last? How long, what happens to the waste itself? You got to inform, you got to educate, and persuade. So I think that may be something. On a business model standpoint, I would say we ought to really consider. There's something called business model canvas, so where you look at the customer view, operational view, and an economic view. And I'd be happy to really offer some more insights. I don't want to take up everybody's time, but
estaría muy feliz de compartir esto con ustedes en algún otro momento.
Thank you so much for your input. You know, yes, it looks like you have experience in business, and I think, you know,
observar que tiene experiencia en negocios
you know, people are fledgling cooperatives and all that could use your expertise to see how we can move into, you know, like you say, you know, something that can be sustainable and good for the wider community for the long term. That's what we are looking for.
El camino a la larga.
Please give us your contact information. Put it into the chat. Thank you very much. And I also request anyone else out there who may or may not have spoken, if you want to keep in touch, whether you want to offer, contribute something, or whether you want to ask something, please just leave your contact information and your question or your contribution that you would like to make. Thank you very much. So now I'm told that actually there's
sorry,
that we
Kalyani,
can continue a bit more.
Will the chat be available for people to look at in the session?
No, we will save it, and then, you know, we can share it with those who want it. Yeah, we can save the chat.
Podemos guardar el chat.
I will, Pratik, can you be sure to save the chat in case I forget?
Yes, I have already saved. And also you can take 5 to 7 minutes more.
Pueden tomar 6 a 7 minutos más.
To wind up by the
Entonces,
5 to 7
lo que sí es que
more.
necesitamos
Thank
terminar.
you very much.
Muchas gracias.
I need to leave for 1 minute. I'll be right
Yo necesito
back. Please continue.
retirarme por un minuto, por favor.
Okay.
Adelante.
Oh, I see. Dada Shambhu Shivananda is saying that we should take a group photo. Shall we take this opportunity? But we have to wait till Dada Dharma Vedananda comes back. But when he does, will everyone please turn on their videos so that we can take group photo of our, you know, all our participants and all the people who are following this session. I think I see that there are 65 participants right now, so that would be nice for us to take our photos. In the meantime, until Dada comes back, is there anyone who wants to ask something or say something? Okay, I know that there's a question, which is, how about advertising marketing? Yeah, indeed, you know, we were saying that Yogesh and Dada, the Oroketa team, were asking for marketing help. So, you know, they have some ideas about how to do it. And if other people have expertise or ideas, please do contact us or contact them with your contributions if you have that. Or were you asking a question about it? But certainly, you know, marketing includes, I think, also things like getting the key anchor institutions to buy. Yeah. Okay, Dada, now that you are back, we are going to take a group photo. So we will. Will everyone please turn on their video so that we can take the group photos? Yeah. So for the group photo, I'm told that you press that button and the print screen. Okay. So now I see that we have got 3 pages. Okay. So I will start with page 1. So everyone put on your smile, turn on your videos. 1, 2, 3. Okay, page 1. Okay, now I'm going to do page 2. 1, 2, 3. And page 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you, everybody. I think we still have a couple of minutes. So if anyone wants to say something. Oh, I see my sisters are there.
Veo que mis hermanas se encuentran por ahí.
I'm so glad that they are there. Okay.
So
I think on may I ask, like in the cooperative, is there a membership so that people can buy into a subscription base? Because I think the key itself, I call it connecting the unconnected. So there may be not only products, but we ought to look at services, because I think the young and the old, because we have a lot of areas where we have an aging population in the developed world and the developing world, what you find in the US, Europe, even in China, and what you're finding is there are needs that are not being met. And we, I guess for food service.
I think someone is sharing screen that is not correct. Can you please remove that? Please stop share. Thank you.
So I think, because I think one of the challenges is that older people in developed societies, I find we got to look for problems of society that are not being serviced by large industrial complex, because it's complex. And I think what you find startups, so people talk about education. If you look at the Bloom's taxonomy, creativity is the highest form of learning. And so we need to really use the creative aspect of execution. And if you really take even in the financial complex, what you find is companies that are startup who are creative end up undoing the larger companies. And so I think there is no reason, but they are not looking at a sustainable. So to me, I think this group has ideas that are, again, good for people, good for profits, could be really create an economic viability, sustainable one, and then plan it to really say, okay, to do something that's more viable. So to me, I think the whole issue of food distribution, if you look at the supply chains, I'm a lot of years, 40 years in the operation management itself. So one of the things we got to look at is we're thinking of selling products rather than full. What are the pain points? And to me, I think if you look at it, people are not able to get 3 meals a day. They may be available in some parts of the world, but not in other parts of the world. If there is, we can learn from what works in one part of the world and apply it to other local organizations. That could be very, very viable. And because I think here in the US, I find restaurants and so forth that are really trying to serve those needs. Whereas I think can we have a meal service that is 3 meals a day? Somebody can on a subscription basis that is packaged, that's safe, that is inexpensive. Could that be viable? Storage technology that really and on a subscription basis, if you take companies like our friends at Costco and larger, so what are they trying to do? Try to provide value. And they want to sell you a lot of stuff. And what we want to do is provide value in terms of human impact.
Thank you very much for your contribution. Thank you to everybody. I would just like to round up with a little point that I would like to make in a way a pitch for Neo Humanist College. This conference is hosted by Neo Humanist College, which is an arm of Gurukul, and we are really about to launch our college into going far beyond just neo-humanist education into all the different fields as we see in this conference. We're covering many fields, and there perhaps are people out there who might want to teach. It can be in person. There's a campus coming up in Asheville, North Carolina, in the US, also in Taiwan, in Singapore, in Sweden, or of course now many things are done online. So we will be looking into all that. Neo Humanist College is looking into all that. So people who want to feel that they are able to contribute in terms of giving courses online or small workshops, as I think many of you have done, please let us know. Please be in contact. At the end of the conference, we will be putting out a survey to say how you might want to contribute. So please look out for that, or even you can put in the chat right now, and we will, go through everything, harvest all that, and come back to you. Let us, make this conference a stepping point to go beyond the conference, to look into really looking for solutions to solve the various crises of the world. Okay, I think with that, I shall wrap up this session. Thank you very much. It has been wonderful, so interesting, and so nice to meet everybody. We have been talking about community, and we are also a community. So let us, work together for people, planet, and profits also, because we need that to continue. Thank you, everybody. That was great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kalyani. You're a perfect facilitator. Thank
you. Thank you. You helped to remind me to call on various people. Thanks. Yeah, thumbs up. Great. Bye-bye. Good night, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world.
Thank you. Thank you, Kalyani. Wow, that was such an inspiring session. I hope everybody of you who participated got something to take away and ponder over it and take some action based on that. And I would like to thank our moderator, wonderful moderator, Kalyani, and all the panelists, Professor Chiu, David, and Dada Dharmedananda, as well as all the participants. And Yogesh, yeah, he made it with his bad connection and electricity problems. So that shows the commitment what Dada was saying. Everybody is involved in that, fully immersed in that cooperative. And also I would like to thank all the participants for the wonderful questions and making the session really interactive. And with this, our next session starts in about 30 minutes. And meanwhile, we have a wonderful award-winning performances by one of Taiwan's leading native voice, Inka Ding, and she's a teacher advocate for the preservation of indigenous songs and languages of the Austro-Asian Atayal tradition. And so we are going to show a video and which we are only showing for educational purposes. So enjoy the video, and you could also take a short break, and we'll meet you back in 30 minutes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Pratik. Namaskar.
Program.
Hãy subscribe cho kênh Ghiền Mì Gõ để không bỏ lỡ